Season 2, Episode 2 of the Newark SKC podcast. I'm Chris Walsh.
I'm Andy Patton.
And I'm Simon Bligh.
And it's lovely to have you in, Simon. Sensei Simon is 6 Dan, Technical Director of the HDKI.
Whatever.
How are we doing, Simon?
I'm very good, thanks. Nice to be here at your wonderful dojo in the heart of Newark.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a great dojo. I'll ask you more about that later on.
So, how are you?
Well, I'm good. I'm it's cold, but other than that, I'm always good. Always good. And, everything. I was training yesterday I did a HDKI squad training yesterday. Took some of my people down. So I did it as well, and really enjoyed it. Stuart did the class. Yeah. Stuart Amos Sensei did the class. Yeah. John and Julie Nicholson were there, and I thoroughly enjoyed joining in.
Excellent. Whereabouts?
That was in Castleford. That was in Castleford because we've got we've regionalised it now, so we've made it inconvenient for everyone rather than convenient for one place. Yeah. So we used to have it in Birmingham, and now we'll have it in Castleford, Leeds. So we get Liverpool, Cleethorpes, me. Around Retford and Preston and Lancashire. So yeah, it was about an hour and 15 for everyone.
Yeah. Unless you've got squad members that are just in all one area, at least there's it's because it's
if we all lived in Birmingham, it'd be great. Except that we don't want to live in Birmingham. Okay. If they all lived around here, they all lived in my village. Yeah, it'd be very convenient for me. I live in a village in the middle of nowhere, by the way. Yeah. No, so I'm happy to be training. I mean, I don't really talk about injuries and stuff, but I'm 1 year after hip replacement. So I had hip replacement on the 7th of February last year. So we're coming around for that, and I'm on the mend, as it were, finally. So,
that's good.
So it's really, my happy place has been in the dojo training all my life. That's been my happy place, and I've spent a year not really been able to train the way I want to train. So now I'm still training better. Yeah. More better than what I was.
Well, we'll come. I'm sure, as we go through your karate journey so far, we'll come to obviously the having a hip replacement. But let's
fascinating hip replacement story.
No, but let's dial it all
Listeners
the way.
Listeners, we can't wait for that. Tell us that again in more detail. What tablets are you on?
Well, dialing that all the way back then. So what age were you when you took up karate?
Well, I'll tell you the story. So I went to school in Liverpool, quite a rough school, and I was skinny, and I got bullied at school. I was very weedy, very tall and weedy. Dead nice. I was very nice, too nice looking back on it. I was only child, didn't have brothers and sisters, I just went to the Scouts a bit, and that was okay, but I was never happy at school. And then something called Kung Fu came on the telly. Yeah.
Was that the one with David
Carradine?
Yes,
yeah. And it was look, now it's dreadful. If you look back on it, it's it's awful. It's a cheesy American thing. But it literally transfixed me, took me to another world. So I can't explain how important it was. And there's a whole generation of people that as well, because no one really knew what karate was. No one knew what Kung Fu was. It was Chinese karate. So he was like a hippie figure, a weedy hippie, tall weedy hippie, just like me, really. But of course, then he's a man of peace. So there's a lot of mysticism going on. There's a Shaolin Temple thing because they're half American, half Chinese, all this stuff. And he had a scene in the Shaolin Temple where he when he leaves, he picks up this urn of burning coal. And he has a tiger and a crane on his forearms. And there's Master Po, who had ping pong ball eyes. He had no eyeballs.
All right. Yeah.
And he had to. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know the show. I know the show, and I know who David Carradine is. I've just never watched the show.
If you go on YouTube, put Kung Fu, and you'll see da 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 da.
It's like he's walking,
and he's walking through the dunes. And there's a Shaolin Temple pastiche. And then Master Ko goes, when you can snatch the pedal from my hand, it's time for you to leave. And he does this, and he closes it, but then he finally leaves. So I know I'm just telling this because it was literally, I was an unhappy child in Liverpool at school, not happy in my life, and this world was like a magical kingdom. It was like the Harry Potter of 1973. So I was 13, so I wanted to do Kung Fu, of course, because everyone did Kung Fu. And there was a new Kung Fu club in Liverpool opened, and you could have to go to the Adelphi Hotel, which was the poshest hotel in Liverpool. And this is like 1973, and there's a big queue because everyone wanted to do it. So I joined the queue, and my dad came with me, and it was something like in modern money, it was like 100 quid to join. It was like 30 quid or something. And my dad said, you're not doing that, you're doing karate, it's cheaper. So, and I wanted to do kung fu because Bruce Lee did kung fu and Chuck Norris did karate, and he got beat in The Way of the Dragon. So by chance, Liverpool was blessed with a really strong, far better martial arts than the kung fu on offer, which is probably someone who'd done a bit in Hong Kong. But so then I went to a guy, Sefton Shotokan Karate Club by Sefton Park, where I'm from. And a guy called Leo Ariti was the teacher there. And he looked like Jim Kelly. So Jim Kelly was in Enter the Dragon. He's a big, cool, super cool, fly black guy with a big afro.
Oh, yeah.
Suddenly, and so I again fell a bit into my narrative of, wait a minute, maybe I've got Jim Kelly as my teacher. So it was like this great word. But the one other problem was you had to be 14 to start. So I went there at 13, and he goes, come back when you're 14. Because it was massive. Also, there was like, it was like, remember like not much bigger than your dojo here, maybe 20 meters or something. And it was packed. There was 3 rows of people all shouting because everyone did it.
Well, you look at some of the videos like there of Enoeda Sensei and stuff teaching like back in the day, and there'll be like 3-4 rows. And you couldn't move anywhere.
No, I mean, you couldn't
move.
I mean, maybe that's why he told me not to come, because we were busy, full. So anyway, what I did then was he decided to I got this book, Bruce Tegner's book of karate, because there was no video, there was no younger listeners, nothing. Yeah. It was all the information was very basic. And the Sun newspaper had a wall chart, which I put on my wall, of a woman in a little thing doing sort of exercises. So I did them. And press-ups and flinging my feet around.
Would you say you'd sort of become a little bit obsessed with that, trying to do
I was obsessed with it.
And,
because no one had ever stretched before. So that's a good point, yeah. But I mean, it was don't forget, karate in them days was fear no man.
Right.
It wasn't like you do it. I brought my KGB book in. I'm going to read something from it, which I just looked up before I came here. So I was buying into something, yeah. So I went there, and the first class, I hated it because it was really, really hard. So we did all that warm-up, normal warm-up, but then we did press-ups on our knuckles, and then we had to stand in Kibadachi where someone punched you in the stomach. This first class 1. And then you do this long front stance you've never, ever done in your life before. Really long, and then you do Gidambarai as fast as you can.
It was such a strange, what you're saying about the long Gidambarai, what I mean?
Made no sense at all.
Even then, you've just been taught it, so you don't know any different.
No.
But then it's even I remember from when I started as a kid that the front stance was a lot longer than it is now. Yeah, and you can see the sense in it, why it's short.
We'll come back to this point as my other as my sort of training later on developed. But it definitely gave you a kink in the spine as well. So anyway, and then we we didn't do any kicks because I was really disappointed because I wanted to do kicks. And it was 2 hours long. The class was 2 hours, and also it was Monday, Tuesday, and Monday, Wednesday. I still got the poster. You probably got it Thursday, and Thursday was 4 hours. And in those days, there was the expectation that you with no water breaks either. Never water at the end, and the expectation was that you did all 3. Do you know what? So it was a karate in those days was three days a week minimum. But then you felt as though I felt this was so. I didn't go the first week. Just one class didn't go, and then I was really. And this is something that's resonated in my life later on when I got to Japan, a similar sort of feeling. I was really devastated, disappointed in myself. And you're going, come on, you've got to do it. So I went the next week, and then I never missed. I've got my diary at home, and I've got lesson 152. I kept a how many lessons I did every year, and and I joked to my daughter, I showed my old diaries to her, and it said things like Monday went to karate. And Tuesday
hated it.
Hated it. It was hard. It was hard. I can send you the picture of it. I've got a picture. It was hard. But then all my diary was things like went to karate, didn't go to karate. Tuesday, Wednesday went to karate. Thursday went. It was really boring. But anyway, so I'm going to be. This is my KGB diary. So when I got this felt like I'd signed a contract, and it sound. I don't know. They probably don't have them in the book anymore. But it says here, I promise to uphold the true spirit of Karate Do.
That.
Yeah. And never to use... And do you want to read it? Because I haven't got my reading glasses on.
Yeah. So I've got it in the front line. So I promise to uphold the true spirit of Karate Do and never use the skills that I'm taught against any persons except for the defence of myself, family or friends in the instance of extreme danger or unprovoked attack or in support of law and order. Yeah. And then obviously you have to sign it there. Oh, very good.
Well, I'll tell you why. I put that picture in when I did my third Dan. Because the one before that was when I was 14. And it's dreadful. But, just looking at those words, that sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Yeah. But for me, that felt like I'm buying into this gang, that this weedy Simon Bligh kid is going to be Bruce Lee. Yeah.
But, I still would say to any of the kids that start with us and stuff that, you don't... you only use it unless you really have to. Don't be a bully. Only use it to protect yourself or.
But also, we were buying this story of we told in Japan, karate black belts had to register their hands with the police. So you all, and I sort of without any, suddenly I felt a little bit different. Complete false sense of security because I couldn't Gidambra anyone to death, but but it made me suddenly part of this subculture, and
So your instructor then, did you get on with him, or is it one of those
terrified of him?
Yeah, terrified of him. Yeah.
Yeah, but also the other, looking back on it now, it's like farcical. There's a number of things that were quite funny and sad. I needed glasses, but I wouldn't wear glasses because I was 14 and they were horrible national health glasses and I wouldn't wear them. So I was always doing that, couldn't quite see what he was doing, and he used to shout that, and I think he thought I was a bit thick would be the old-fashioned word. Yeah. So we'd be doing Shuto and I'd be doing that, and he goes, "Don't do this," and I'm going, and he goes, just walk away. And the other one was my dad didn't buy me a suit for ages. Because I always wanted a karate suit, and they were about 35 quid in those days. But then my dad bought me one. It was too big on me because my whole life.
They all were then.
Yeah. He goes, "You'll grow into it. It fits me now." But so the whole thing was I would have looked. In my mind, I was like Bruce Lee, but in reality, I was a tall, skinny kid with a too big karate suit on and spots. So so that's why I did it, because I wanted to be transformed into a human killer and no one would bully me anymore. And I loved the kicks. So that was the one. When David Carradine in Kung Fu, he did a side kick, and no one had ever seen that before. It was like he's kicked someone in the head. Yeah. And before he did that, he'd go, I'm a Shaolin priest. I want no harm. And then he'd beat the hell out of everyone. It was like an interesting dichotomy of man of peace, but you don't mess with him.
So thinking back then, obviously once you'd done a bit of karate at that young age, did you ever have to use that to defend yourself?
Well, what happened was I didn't tell anyone I did it because it was a bit of a secret. Yeah. You see, but then I became very quickly very fit because I was super lean, and then suddenly, because every class 100 press-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and then we were sparring. I was the youngest there, so the kumite would be with men. There was no women there. One woman came one time, and that made me feel very uneasy. But there was no kids. And so it was just rough physical training. I remember the class.
It's always the same story from all that era. Back in the day, it was just hard.
But I wanted that. Yeah. I mean, that's what I wanted. Look, it made me.
Yes.
No disrespect. No. Everything I've done in my life, I know this sounds a bit cliched, but I think karate people should have I don't like the word should. But okay, my thing about karate is I think karate should make soft people tougher and tougher people softer. And that's kind of my Zen approach to karate. And often that doesn't work, But I think karate just gives you that little grit, therapeutic discomfort. That's what my yoga teacher calls it, I do Ashtanga yoga, which is quite tricky yoga, hard yoga, I suppose. And so you find your edge. So, when I was 14, Leo found my edge by shouting at me. Yeah. And
there's that subconscious thing there, that knowing that they've got your best interest at heart of making you.
Oh, well, see, that's. Scott Sensei always says that about the instructor's course in Japan. They say he'd like to think there were Hooke's law. If you pull something, it reaches its elastic limit. He said, I'd like to think that they're taking you to your absolute limit and they know when to stop. but he said, I'm not sure if they do.
Yeah.
And I actually think in probably karate, even then, and maybe there's a certain amount of attrition. And I often say, like, I mean, like in our dojo, someone's just got their black belt a few weeks ago and someone else failed it. And we always talk about, you know, it makes it more precious. Like if people, you kind of want people to leave. So when I started in the dojo in Liverpool, there must be about 60 people there. And 4 years later, it closed down. There was 2 of us left. And we were both brown belts. But that kind of, we felt like, like a band of brothers.
Yeah. Why do you think that it closed down?
Because people went off kung fu, off it was a craze.
Yeah.
It was about 5 years of a craze. Suddenly people were doing breakdancing. I think that's what came, skateboarding, breakdancing, something like that. Yeah. So it was a phase, I mean, it was I can't, it's what people did. Like people used to do hula hooping or whatever they do now. Yeah. So, and also, but they mainly stopped going because it was horrible. And it was, I suppose you could say it was boring. Every class was the same. We do, you do Ganambarai, and then you do Agiuki, Sotouki, Uchuki, up and down, and then you do them all together, and then you get an even longer combination, and then you do, so it was, but it was just what I wanted, and so in terms of, I never had a big dramatic fight or anything, but after about a year, some other kids were looking through the window, and it was like, Bligh does karate.
Right.
But then we used to do PE, and I was like one of the fittest kids in PE, and because I'm skinny, I was really like vascular, and I was dead supple because I stretched all the time. Yeah. I used to stretch my legs on the stairs and put the lights on and off with my foot. So the other thing with karate in those days, and even now, is it was all about self-training. So you train 3 times a week, but I did it every day. Just did it. And I used to run around Sefton Park, and it just became, I used to think like a boxer. You just trained all the time, endless training.
Like a routine kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Because I wanted to be Bruce Lee. I had about 10 Bruce Lee pictures on the wall, and he, he's 5'2", I was like 6'1", skinny. And then I wanted to be Terry O'Neill, and I mean, for a KGB people, I was more like Bob Poynton, which I think Leo said to me, you like Bob Poynton, which I took as an insult, which I realised now it wasn't. But you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it literally, so that's where it was. So at school, sometime around, someone was bullying me a little bit. And I just picked up my leg and pinned his head against the wall, which, looking back on it, I'm quite ashamed of, really. And he was like that. And so just held it there and then pulled it back down again. And then I turned and I kicked the wall with my washi-geri, like bam, like that with my shoes on. And that was like, whoa, okay, that's it, that's Bligh.
Yeah, but again, like a lot of bullies, sometimes you just need to...
I met him on holiday in Spain sometime in the 90s. Phil Whelan, his name was. God bless you, Phil. And he turned out to be a copper. He was a copper. And I said to him, you know what, I'm really sorry I did that. And he went, no, it was cool.
There you go.
So I recommend always pinning someone's head against the wall. So I mean that's kind of the beginning of something which I've never stopped doing.
Yeah. So when that, obviously you said that when a few years later, when the club closed,
I went to Jimmy Brenner's club in Chilwell. I was doing my A-levels.
Right.
But the other thing I suppose you have to talk about in those days is that lack of information. What was really good, I liked those books. So we used to go to W.H. Smith's in Liverpool, and the only book, and they'd have 3 karate books. They'd have Nishiyama's book, Dynamic Karate, Nakayama's book, and Mazoyama's Kokushinkai book, which I've still got all of them. And they were gone for Christmas one year after the other. And the Oyama book was great, because he had him breaking ice and kicking cigarettes out of people's mouths. Oyama was very good at selling karate. Kokushinkai karate. So that, I mean, but then I used to study them. Karate do Koyohan as well. So
I was just going to say, do you see yourself as, obviously a student of the art, but almost like a historian of it, where you follow the history, and some of the teachings by the books.
What it was, I mean, it's all very. I bought into the whole thing, so I ended up doing philosophy and comparative religion at university. Because of Kung Fu. Literally, it's that sort of, because it opened up this world of the Orient. So there's a Chinatown in Liverpool. So I used to walk around there. It's like 2 streets. Yeah. But I was pretending I was in Hong Kong, and I was looking at the characters. It was almost like a fantasy. Mm-hmm. The nearest thing I think about is like Harry Potter world or something.
Yeah.
If you just get into it, like kids now would be on Harry Potter. I was on all things Oriental. Yeah. And so then, I got for Christmas, I got Kung Fu books, Chinese boxing, Master of the Method. I've still got them all. So I used to read everything. Yeah. You know, I taught myself Wing Chun from a book. I mean, bad Wing Chun. So I constantly, it was like, because I love football, and then I suddenly didn't play football anymore. I did martial arts.
Yeah, I look, it's look at that level, like what you're doing there is like, what I'd say is like just like a true student of the art, you know, like which you wouldn't, you know, nowadays you won't get people like going, I'm sure, like, you will get some, but like, you know, someone said to me, says like, you know, like someone asked, I think it was my father, it's like someone, before he sort of packed up karate, like I think someone had said to him like, you know, would you consider yourself like, you know, if like a master of karate, like of the art, and he was like, and he was like, no,
I'm the same, no.
And he was like, no, because we had this conversation about it, and he was just saying, no, because this is, I've gone through this process of doing all the training rigorously and grading and everything like that. But he said, in his mind, he was someone that really like studied it, like what you're saying, you know.
Maybe it's a hobby. If it's a quiz, I'm good at karate quizzes. The other thing, I just remembered this. What was also like, it was kind of underground. So there's 3 books you could get, 4 books. And then the other books were rubbish, and they're really like crappy rubbish books you could get. And then there was magazines. So I used to get Kung Fu Monthly was the magazine. And then...
have you still got those?
Yeah, I've still got them. Issue 1, number 1. Yeah. But they're all on the wall. They're all been like, but they've all got pins in them. But then there was a magazine called Black Belt from America and Karate Illustrated. But they were very hard to get. And there was like a dodgy sex shop in Scotland Road in Liverpool. And it really was. But the front for it, you go in and there's a magazine called Soldiers of Fortune, like a mercenary magazine, Mad Comic, few American comic books, and karate, Karate Illustrated and Black Belt. And then there was a curtain where all the dodgy books were. So I was really embarrassed going in. I was going there. But then I've still got them as well. So I'd get Karate Illustrated with Chuck Norris in and Joe Lewis and all them guys and some Japanese ones. And then, you know, you get one. And then another one wouldn't come out maybe for like 6 months or a year. Yeah. So it was very esoteric. So I didn't memorise them, really. And then at the Liverpool show, there was a magazine called Fighting Arts. Terry O'Neill's magazine. Yes. You know, Terry O'Neill at this stage was like a god to me, But then suddenly there was like a quality magazine.
Yeah. Because I remember my father was subscribed
I've got all of them, yeah. Except 1 and 2, which I'm working on. But like it was like there was one issue of Taekwondo with pictures and then a report from Taekwondo. And then there was one about the JKA, JK instructors. Yeah. And it's just fired my imagination like mad. Yeah. And then Fighting Arts would come out twice a year if you're lucky, sometimes 6 times a year, sometimes never. And and then you just had to scan the shelves in Smith's. It was like hunting for
treasure.
Yeah, hunting for Pokemon. It was like Pokemon
finding the rarest ones. Yeah.
So all that kind of made it special because now, like, you go on YouTube, it's too easy.
Yeah.
In many ways. So, like, I was really interested in Kung Fu styles. You get a Wing Chun book and you learn and you couldn't find another one. And sometimes I got a book on Bagua, which is like a esoteric Chinese art. And you got pictures on it. And looking at it, it's impossible to learn, really. Because
it was such a well put together, from what I remember. I mean, it was such a well put together magazine.
It was the best.
As well.
It was the best. Completely the best.
It was really good.
I've got a funny story about that because when I was a student, I came back to Liverpool and I worked on the Christmas mail. And I was just midnight shift, and a big thing of Christmas cards came, and one was for Chuck Norris, one was for Joe Lewis, and Dan Santo, and I think it was Nishiyama somewhere, and it was Terry O'Neill's Christmas card list.
Really?
Christmas cards. Really, honestly, honest to God. And it was really, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm doing this, and I go, Mr. C. Norris. Yeah, honestly, it was just, that would have been, that was just,
There's got to be a hand of fate in there that you
I got to pinch them all. No, I didn't. But it's, so I suppose it gave me a community. And also it wasn't particularly friendly either, to some extent.
Back in the day it wasn't, was
no,
it?
and there was no talking. You walk in the dojo, because you'd be going... you'd walk there and you'd have to
psych yourself.
Yeah, and also my friends did it with some friends of mine, and I was the last one to do it. But we all kind of knocked on each other's door. You come into karate then, because we could have, if they didn't knock on the door, I probably wouldn't have gone.
Yeah.
And in the same way, if I hadn't knocked on the other guy's door, he mightn't have gone. Yeah. So that made us go. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, yeah. It's like just like, again, that sense of like community between the students.
Yeah.
But I imagine, like you said, the instructor, like, is scared to
never
scared to them. You wouldn't
never talk to
like back then. You just wouldn't have talked to the instructor, though, would you? I mean,
bow.
Yeah.
And as soon as he walked in, you'd line up.
Yes.
Which I quite liked to some extent. So the short answer to your long question was it was a gateway to a new vision of myself, and took me away from all the stuff I didn't like about being a bullied kid in Liverpool, and it gave me massive self-esteem in the end.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, again,
which is good, isn't it?
Well, as you know, as an instructor yourself, I mean, it's great to see that in kids, that you get like a shy kid, quiet kid come into your dojo, and then if they do stick with it, and you can push them and mold them in the right direction to keep them with it, just a confident.
My student Noah just got his black belt at Christmas. Christmas, Christmas, and I've got a certificate for him next week, and he has just blossomed.
Yeah, again, we're a bit like as well, young San, because
San's amazing.
Yeah, and he's, I mean, just from when he's joined us. And come through the belt system, and he's also just got a job at the local leisure centre being a swim instructor as well. And he's been volunteering there for ages, and they finally took him on. And I saw him at the weekend. Then you just think, look how far you've come.
He used to be a really annoying little boy. George, my student George, he was trained yesterday with me, with Stuart Sensei, and he's banging away at the kumite, and it was Tony Chin as well. Tony's got and gets stuck in like that. And you watch him, and he's so proud of him, and he used to be the very annoying, the wonderful but annoying little kid. You think, oh, he'll probably leave soon, and he's doing his knee down later in the year.
Oh, so we used to say that about Lorenzo, didn't we? They used to start.
But I think maybe that before we move on, the most important thing of that is that change. It brings something out in people. And
absolutely.
And it really do, and I think karate is kind of maybe not unique in that, but you don't get that in the Tiddlywinks Club, and you don't get that at five-a-side. I don't think. No. You maybe get it in some things, but
that's why I've always, I mean, like with my own, even like with my own children, I think it's good that I try and get them to do team sports, but then also I like them to do the karate. It's because it's your own journey, isn't it?
For me, because I played football. I was a goalie in football, and the goalkeepers are always a little bit independent. I think you're either a hero or the victim, which is pretty much my character. I'm like, I want to be the star or the bad guy. And I liked it because it was my secret for a while. It was my little secret. Because I read Funakoshi's book, Karate Do My Way of Life.
Yes.
And of course, I remember reading about that. And he used to train in the dark. He used to carry a lantern to Totsu's dojo and do kata, and then come back because it was illegal then in Okinawa. And so it was like a secret, and all the neighbours are going, "Where's he? Is he going to the bar again?" And he goes, "No, I'm going to do karate." So that always my training before, maybe for 35 years, was just about me.
Yeah.
I didn't care about politics, anything. Hardly really cared about competitions. Just trained, trained all the time.
Yeah. So did you ever get the chance to train with Terry O'Neill?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So so when Leo's club closed, I went to do my A levels. Went to Jimmy Brennan's club, and I was doing my A levels. So that I did less. I only went to karate once a week in that year, but I ran and trained every day on my own. And they got annoyed with me, and they wouldn't let me grade and stuff. Which I did care about then, but looking back, I didn't care about. So I did that. That was just once a week because I went to university. I got a good grade at A level. I don't regret that. And then
there you have. There has to be an allowance.
Yeah. And then I had a year off. Not a year because I got really good A levels, but I needed to get maths O level because I didn't get that. I couldn't matriculate till I get maths O level, so I went to Chilwell College to do that. And during Terry O'Neill's Samurai Dojo opened.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, and also I had a link with Steve Cattle, by the way. We used to do our grades with Steve Cattle because Leo liked Steve and I liked Steve. And so I used to go and train there sometimes, but more of that later. Yeah. So Terry O'Neill's dojo, he had a purpose-built, and I'd never been in one before. There's pictures of it. Bernard Rose has got some great pictures of it. So I had mirrors, makiwaras, bag, And it was like a
magical
kingdom. So you'd walk in, and and Terry's there, and all the keen people came there. And there was the double-edged sword was that Terry wasn't there very often because he was in Hollywood and he was being Terry. But it was still a good dojo. But then I really wanted.
So who was usually teaching?
There's a guy called Gary Black. You won't know. He was a Goju guy. Putting me on my. I can't remember. Dolphin Davis was there. You might not know them.
That
tough guys, yeah.
Davis,
but all good. And the women there were good, really good women whose names I may come back to me. But and I was again super fit then. He really was. But he hit me one time and he just picked me up like that. He dropped me like a slap. And he goes, "Breathe, son." But he was actually quite friendly. And also he was the first one who gave me a compliment because no one ever gave you compliments in them days.
Oh no, that was like few and far between.
So I was kicking the wall like you did it, and he goes, "Don't knock my wall down, son." And that made me really happy.
So how long were you there?
Only about 9 months because then I went to university and I joined the university club.
Which uni did you go to?
Manchester. So Gary Harford would come maybe twice, and. That was just another part of my life, really. And university had a gym that was free because the university gym. So I used to go there pretty much every day. And
did you say you trained at the university?
Manchester University Karate Club, yeah. But then they also had a gym, like a multi-gym. They were new multi-gyms, like the thing. And I've never been big on competition, but I was in the team, and I went to the British University Championships in Nottingham.
Was there a reason, for not being too big on the competition?
It
just wasn't bothered.
No, I mean, even now I'm not bothered. But I mean, I got to the quarterfinals, and I, like an idiot, like stupid. I thought I'll do a bit more stretching, just so I can kick more people in the head, and I ripped
your hamstring.
But it doesn't matter. But it was a good experience, and I didn't enter another competition for years after that. But then I graduated, and then I was a bit lost because I wanted to get into acting and show business. And I I went to America. I got a job in America where I did American freestyle karate. Wow, Steve Mad Dog Curran.
Mad Dog.
Yeah, that was his name.
What a name.
Americans, they always have to have a good name.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Steve Mad Dog. And they wore blue doggies. And they had safety, gloves and semi-contact.
Of course they did, yeah.
And actually, at Kumite, it was like worlds collide. So the first time we do Kumite, I dropped this lad with Maya Gary. And they go, "What are you doing, man? What are you doing?" I'm going, "It's semi-contact." "No, that's hard contact." So the rule was a bit strange.
Oh, okay.
And then, but no, they were good. They were really, really good. Yeah. And then they do spinning kicks and all sorts of stuff. It was just different.
Did you go there thinking, like, "Oh, what is this?" Or did you just go in there
I thought it was exciting. Mind? Because I'd seen all the American karate magazines and I'd seen all the safety gear stuff. I wanted to do it. I wanted to do the full contact stuff. So I didn't, but no, they were fun. They were just like, it was just, but then they wiped me out. Their rules completely, like American backfist was this. Yeah. And they do a Texas ridge hand. It was a different world. Okay. It was all.
I feel like a height.
But they
like
moved,
height.
Yeah. But I mean, some of the guys there my age, they were really moving well, and that was open every day. It was the first time as a professional dojo open every day. So I used to go every morning because I was working at the university there. Entered the World American Freestyle Karate Championships in Seattle.
The world.
And I said, "Why is it called the World?" He said, "Well, anyone in the world can enter." And he goes, "You're from England, so there you are." I was the only one.
It's a bit like the Baseball World Series.
Yeah, but a guy called Steve Nasty Anderson won that, who had a Stars and Stripes. Steve Nasty Anderson, there you go.
Brilliant name.
And there's a guy called Blinky Rodriguez. He was there. Okay. Yeah. And there was a woman, Cynthia Rothrock. Do you know her?
Yes.
She won the weapons. And they had a breaking competition. I met the breaking guys, and they were like really good at breaking, break boards and stuff, and they'd come and go, "My style is Tang Soo-do, my master, blah blah blah." No, I will. Yeah. But it was really different, and they did all the weapons.
Oh wow!
But their kata was awful. I mean, I just wouldn't do their kata.
No. Well, you see some of this stuff like on Facebook now, and like you said, that they're like saying this like, "Oh my," you said, like,
this style from like Tamari Chi, a little village, and then it was just like. if you look at like really just showing off, it's like ha.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
and I
different.
just couldn't bring myself to do that.
No, that's what you find there. Like
Yeah.
it's anyone that's done sort of like our style of karate and so does that. And you're like,
I like all proper styles. It was just, but I mean, how old was I then? I was 23, and it was just an adventure, really.
and how long were you in the States for?
6 months. My dad died, so that's my next turn of my life. So my dad died, and so I came home, really lost, really lost, and went to Steve Cattle's dojo, and Steve was fantastic to me.
I hear lots of good things about Steve Cattle. And
Well, he again changed my life. So he just said, "Come and train with me, son." So I did. You know, and just followed him round. And Steve was like wonderful, but very sometimes unreliable. So like, he said, I'll pick you up. He used to pick me up at the house and take me to his dojo in Southport, where he was on. And every now and again he'd ring up, "Well, I can't make it today, so I'll get the train." You know, so, but he was great. And so the first time I went to the Triangle initially, and they were very unfriendly. Yeah, and completely unfriendly. No one said hello to me or anything. And then I went to Steve's club, and he didn't remember me because I was bigger. And we did the training.
Was Steve part of the KUGB?
Yes, KGB. This is 1983.
Right.
84. My dad died in December 83. So and they said, "Do you fancy a pint?" I went, "Yeah." So we had a pint, and then we had another one, and then we just got on. And then he knew things like he knew he'd be doing Basai Dai, and he'd go, "Well, you do Pasai Dai from Tapari Tea in Okinawa." It was like the exact opposite of the Americans. And then he'd show you, he could just, his head, we used to joke steam would come out of his head because he'd just show you his brain was, and you go, "You do it this way, you do it that way." And he was a genius. I think it was.
I know, I mean, Sensei Mick Lowe we had on, he'd like obviously trained and stuff with like Steve Cattle, and he was saying like, he always had to be able to do it in like, was it like reverse as well?
Yeah, I was never a fan of that. But I also know he was clever.
Yeah.
He was clever, he was friendly, he was tough. He'd take his glasses off and go, "I've got great control, son." Because I mean, it was great control, but it was like, you knew you got him. But I really respected him because you look at him, he's called himself the Baldy Wonder. Sometimes you call him. He's like Nobby Styles. But you see him in a pub and you think, you'd get surprise. You know. He came in one day with a big sort of thing on his I mean, he's quite a tough guy, on a bandage on his hand. I said, "What happened to your hand, Sensei?" He goes, "I must have punched this guy through a window." And he was the other one who said to me, in the pub, I said, "Do you want another drink, Sensei?" He goes, "Steve, Sensei in the dojo, Steve outside," which I kind of like. But the big thing that he did with me, he'd been to Japan a number of times, and he's got an interview in Fighting Arts when he did judo in Japan. And he went on the Trans-Siberian Railway. And I said, "I'd love to go to Japan." And he goes, "Why don't you go?" And I thought, well, couldn't I? Yeah. So you could go, and so I could do that. And then, so he was a bit, and then if I come back to Fighting Arts again, Rick Jackson Sensei, who I train with as much as I can now, and I regard as the biggest influence on my karate life nowadays, he had a big 3-part series of training in Japan. Again, was just beginning to plant this seed of thinking, I could do this. I'd moved to America, I know how to do that. I could go to Japan. So I've always been interested in like the Orient and going to the source.
Of course.
And the other one I've always tried to, there's a room. The saying is like, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. Right. And I always think if you're the best guy in the dojo, you're in the wrong dojo. So I've always wanted to try and go somewhere where everyone's.
Obviously getting pushed as well.
Yeah. So the next step I did after that was, I was a comedian for 30 years, so that's my other life, And so I always wanted to be an actor, a comedian, a writer. So I think maybe that's why I didn't do competitions and stuff. I remember going on stage once with a black eye, which was quite funny because I could make a joke about that. But I thought I don't really want to do that on a Saturday before I go to work. So that's one of the reasons I think I had a solitary path as well. So then I joined Marshall Street.
So is that because you just decided to move down?
To be a comedian.
I
went to London.
To meet your fortune.
I did. And again, this resonates because I was... I don't know, sound cool.
What age? You're in what?
I was 24, 25. So
yeah.
my dad, I had a year off lost, really, when my dad was dead, looking after my mum. It was like really hard. And I did some theatre and education because I've got a background in education. So that just got me back into show business type of thing, working in schools, which was great. And but I got my other diary, and then, used to be went to karate, and then goes, I want to be a comedian. So I started, because that again, alternative comedy just started then.
Yeah.
So, non-racist, non-sexist comedy, it was of its time, and it just, again, fitted in perfectly with university graduate, blah, 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 did it. And, of course, I had to go to Enoeda Sensei Dojo.
Yeah.
And that was
a lot more friendly than the Triangle?
No. Well, I'll tell you what it was. Because it's central London, and people come and go. There's a massive turnover of people.
Yeah.
So you have to do your time there, really. But, I mean, it was magical. So, there was a big advert on the tube. I might have sent you the poster. There's a big poster of Enoeda doing this moshigiri. And you get off the tube at Oxford Circus, and there it is, Enoeda Sensei, big poster. Again, it fires your imagination. I mean, I've always sort of want things that enthuse me. So you walk in, all these steps, I think it's 100 steps up to the top, and you can hear, like Enter the Dragon, because the beginner's class was on. And then, you pay your money, really expensive, London prices, But again, purpose-built dojo, makiwara, mirrors, Enoeda Sensei's there. And then when you walk on the field, no one says hello to you because you're just another visitor. There's millions of visitors. Yeah. And then suddenly you don't quite know what to do. You're there, And then suddenly Enoeda Sensei comes, and everyone just parts the waves like Moses, like that. And he walks through like quite fast. Take your little flip-flops, take your flip-flops off, walk through and turn. And then they do the Dojo Kun. Yeah. And, and I was right at the back, obviously hiding. And it was just magical. And again, it's what I wanted. So suddenly you think, this is it's like Bruce Lee.
Being down in London and then...
And also living in London, it was all very exciting, very hard, very expensive. Cause I was a temp. I was an office temp, just trying to make a living. But, and no one talked to you for quite a long time there. But it didn't matter because that was just the way it was. Because people would come, people would go. I mean, you get all sorts of people. You get people from Takodai University would turn up. Sumo wrestlers turned up. It was really exciting.
Again, like all just there to train with Sensei.
But I mean, Enoeda Sensei was fantastic just because of the sheer romance and the spirit of it all. And then Ota Sensei, Hasaguchi was teaching then, and then Ota Sensei, and they had a whole different karate. Yeah. Because Enoeda Sensei karate was really 1950s JKA and early 60s JKA. He came over 64, 65. So, that and then 1970s JKA
it's so different.
Yeah. So there was always that, Ota Sensei said this himself, there was always an awkward sort of, old way, new way thing. But then his classes were great. But because I remember just before that, Steve Clark had a poster of Tanaka in Kirkdale, Tanaka Sensei. Like, it's a really good poster, like doing all bits and pieces of karate. And I looked at it thinking, his stances are wrong. my front stance is longer than his.
But that was that front stance. So that long front stance was that like a British thing that was done? Or was that was just how it was done then?
Well, I'll tell you why if you want.
Yeah.
So Shotokan Karate was based on Shorin-ryu, Okinawan Shorin-ryu. So if you look at clips of Funikoshi back in the day, he's in very short stances, high stances with, the sort of stances you tell him off for now. Yeah. And Shorin-ryu has those stances, And so when Okinawan Karate came to Japan, it was sort of frowned upon because it was a peasant's art. It'd be like something from the Isle of Man. You know what I mean? No, seriously, because in Japan, Judo and Kendo are the Budo arts. They are the, So Funikoshi was a school teacher, quite frowned upon again by some of the other people in Okinawa because they didn't think he was a master. He wasn't a big tough guy. He was a school teacher, again, which something appealed to me as well. Yeah. And he wasn't a thug. Some karate guys are like super tough fighters and stuff, but not very refined. Funikoshi was. And, Funikoshi changed the name. So, karate was Chinese hand. So it was like, literally Tang, Chinese word for Tang Dynasty. Yeah. So Okinawan karate was learned Southern Chinese kung fu, basically. Learned from bits and pieces on.
Yeah, I've seen like some of the videos that Naka Sensei does where he travels to
to
China.
Yeah. So what happened was Funikoshi came to Japan, and his deal was he met the intellectuals people. So the first club in Tokyo was in Keio University. And they're doctors, it's like Oxford and Cambridge. So Keio and Waseda did karate. And he changed the name to empty hand. So this is a Buddhist concept. So the Heart Sutra, form is emptiness, emptiness is form, which is a big thing in Zen. Yeah. So he put this authentic sort of intellectual, spiritual clause on it, which again makes a lot of, it really resonates with me as well. So he tried to just not gentrify it, just make it more Japanese. Yeah. So things like, they in Okinawa, they'd wear no dogi or just underpants and stuff. No, seriously. And then he talked to Kano Jigoro, the founder of judo, and he started introducing suits, dogis. There was no dogi in Okinawa until the 1950s, really. And then his son, then karate was also very boring. So all the students started doing it at Keio University and Waseda University and then Takudai University. And there was no kumite. They just used to do kata, 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 kata. So they invented like go-on kumite to try and spice it up a bit. And of course, then you read Kaze Sensei, they just had full contact fights. So especially they challenged the Wado or the Goju or inter-universities. They were called exchange matches. And they just, people would get the tooth knocked out and stuff that they're fighting. So to try and sort of calm people down, they thought, this was constantly evolving. And also, Yoshitaka, Funikoshi Yoshitaka, the son of Funikoshi Gichin, he was young, dynamic, and so he introduced the longer stances. And I think the longer stances came from sword fighting. And a lot of tactics came from kendo. And so the long stance comes from a style called Jingenryu, which is a fierce form of sword fighting. And they have this long, and Fudodachi, same sort of thing. Yeah. So there's no Fudodachi in Shorin-ryu. So all this was influenced. And again, all this made it more Japanese.
But is it like, so as it's gone along, then the long front stance? Because as I always looked at it, is it like trying to transfer like from one like such a long stance into something else? Just seemed like it was, like for mobility purposes. This is just like my take. It was just mobility purposes that doesn't really work.
Funikoshi said that long stances are for beginners only.
Right.
And so it's a form of tanren training, forging. Holding that stance. But I distinctly remember in the old days, imagining I had hooks on my front leg and pulling myself along quite a long time. And it wasn't until I started going to Japan, or really Scott Langley Sensei started talking about back leg drive and stuff, all this sort of fitted together. Yeah. So it was just very different. So my story there was Hasaguchi Sensei. I turn up at Marshall Street. I've been there a while now. He walks along the line, and I'm in my... I thought I'm in the best stance, and he just came up to me and just pushed me over. My knee was sticking out like that, and just pushed my knee over and just walked away tutting.
As they do.
So, I mean, the teaching was, there wasn't, I mean, Ota Sensei was great because he was far more technical and talk about hips. And he was the first person who said, Simon, calm down. And I thought, well, I don't want to calm down. I want and he was the beginning of smoothness and, and maybe doing kata arms only, just, which is, again, it sounds daft now, but refreshing to actually think more about what am I doing here rather than I'm just going to make a big, deep stance.
Well, that'd be like my, again, as being a young lad, really, like when I started and seeing Enoeda Sensei and Enoeda Sensei, is that you'd sort of got like this sort of like brute power from Enoeda Sensei, and then Sensei Ito would have like
perfect combination. To be honest, I mean, the perfect week or month would be you'd like, I say 3 weeks. It was always training 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and then maybe 2 Enoeda sessions as well, Enoeda sessions. But also, I started off doing evenings, but then the best thing about it was there were lunchtime classes.
Yes.
So when I started to work at night doing the comedy clubs, I could train. And like I always joke, I was in the lunchtime softies. We were the softies in the lunchtime club. But then sometimes the softies would be Elwyn Hall and Roy Cudjoe, Roy Tomlin, and Richard LaPlante. Sort of all characters. And there were some good characters there. The guy called Big Keith, who had been to Japan, who was a really good partner because he was a bit bigger than me and a bit better than me. So I always try and partner with Big Keith, and try not to part. Was
there like a Was there like from what I can gather, there's like a core die-hard group as well, though, of like in the Marshall Street.
Well, there was the evening Marshall Street gang. I mean, which I was never part of that. Like, you know, Craig Ray, for example, Senpai. I mean, they were brilliant, but they were just on a different trajectory than me, because I was never in the squad or anything. And, I mean, I got on very well with Roy Tomlin. I used to train with Roy in Liverpool. I've got a lot of time for Roy. I mean, Roy was actually the first one to be friendly to me, I think, because I did do some squad training with, because Roy invited me. So, and I did a few southern regions and stuff, and and then Roy had that enthusiasm for Japan as well. That I thought his karate was very JKA.
Yeah, I mean, I always got on with him while he was in JK England.
Yeah, no, I also liked his karate. You know, because he was really good at kumite, and I was always a bit dramatic. That's my character, really. And he was really understated, and I kind of like people who are different to me. I fought him one time. We fought in Thailand, one international thing in Thailand, and I got him in the final. And I thought, you know, which was good, really, because I wanted to fight foreign people, which I did. And I thought, I know I'm not going to win. And I tried to win, and we had the most boring fight in the world because he was a really good counter puncher, and I knew he was. And I was a good kicker, so he's probably thinking he's going to kick, and I'm going to pick him off with a punch. So I thought he's going to pick me off with a punch, so I'm not going to kick. And we had one of those sort of.
Yeah, it was just one of those like stalemate.
Yeah, and I think
the
ref was from Japan.
Like, will you do something?
They told us off. And in the end, I thought, oh God, I'll just throw a kick. And he just kazamas me. And it put me out in misery. So that was good. And then Marshall Sensei was my big friend. She's my senpai. So she was fourth dan, and she was kind to me as well. Just friendly, you know. I mean, and then we'd all go. We had a very cozy, like bijou, go for a cappuccino afterwards type of thing. And Rod Butler was there as well. Got on very well with Rod. So because I was there for 17 years or so, you know. And it was looking back on it, I took it all for granted. I said this to Marshall. I've got no pictures. Didn't got a single picture of me being at Marshall Street at all. Yeah. And because it was just every day. You know, it's I went on a course with Kanazawa one time. I've got a picture. I never thought about it. So looking back on it, I was very lucky. I was lucky to be in Liverpool and get that base and meet people like Steve Cattle and Leo, and, you know, magical characters like inspirational characters like Terry O'Neill, and then to, you know, have an adventure in America, and then have this 17 years at Marshall Street with a gap when I went to Japan, and it all, you know, it was great. Really, really good. So you could, you know, it was just looking back on it. I had a great life.
So after once, when did Marshall Street shut?
2000.
Down?
Yeah. Well, I think it's 2002. When did Enoeda die?
That was like 2003,
2003,
was it?
Yeah. So when my last license is in here.
Yeah, I think it was 2003. Was it?
Yeah, 2003. It'll be. Yeah. Yeah, 2003.
Yeah.
Or 9.
Wow.
9.
Wow.
That was my last license.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and but then it went to Oasis.
Yeah.
But then so I
Did it shut down? Obviously, did it shut down because Enoeda was Sensei?
No, it shut down. No. It shut down because the building. It shut down. I think just before he passed away. Like the building was sold, and it was going to be knocked down and turned into a block of flats or something. And in the end, it never got knocked down and turned into. It was owned by the city of Westminster. So it was all very disappointing. And then now Craig Senpai's back in there.
Yeah, he's back in there, which is good that it's got that.
It's a different setup.
Yeah.
But it was you know, you'd also hear the kiais from the street.
Yeah. But it's nice to know that, like, it's someone who there was again.
He was very close to it. I mean, I was never close to it.
Like someone there who was close, and was a direct student, I guess, of like Sensei Enoeda, who's like taking it on as well, which is nice.
I've got 3 stories about Enoeda Sensei. Which first one is like an embarrassing one. So we're doing something, and I think we're doing Ian Nidan, this movie Ian Nidan, and he comes and goes to me, and I look at him. So I put my stance lower, and he goes. So I bring it up again, and then I put it back to where it was, and he just looked at me, just hit me round the head, laughing, and walked off. And that was like, okay. And the other one was, then the best one was he did this spinning round kick. He was quite old in them days, so he did a slow one, and he called me out to demonstrate it. And like I'd never really done a spinning moshigiri before, maybe I had faffing around. and I did the best one I've ever done and just clunked Rob Butler in the head. And that was because of him. Yeah. He gave me that energy, put me on the spot, and it was like, I've got to do a good one.
I bet you know as well that it's like if you're doing it at a course, or if you're at the person's like an instructor's club, and you get called out, and you're like, it goes one of two ways, doesn't it? Because it's either going to go well.
Yeah, well, you've got to make it go well.
Yes.
My worst uke experience has been Owen Hall's uke one time. And that was like, because he, I think he liked me. It's like, looking back on it, was an honour. But
an honour getting beaten up.
Oh, yeah. And hitch control is always like about an inch into your body, which I don't mind about it. But one time he kicked me in the groin. I know he did this hurricane to the groin. He used to do this like bang, like that. And like that. And he goes, "You're not wearing a box, are you?" And I went, "No." Why would I? So and the best, just before he died, I just finished training, walking along Shaftesbury Avenue, and he comes the other way. And I'm like that, and he sees me, and he has a big smile on his face, and just smacks me on the back and goes, "Us!" Like us, Sensei. And it was lovely, because I was never close to him, but he knew, he remembered me from the class. So they're all great times, great times, and I feel very privileged to be part of that. And I think everyone has their own Marshall Street story, because the dojo was so cosmopolitan and so international. That and sort of polarized. There was cliques within cliques and cliques, and I was happily being in the lunchtime gang. And that was good.
I just see sometimes like the people who were like obviously there and probably around Sensei Enoeda a lot. I see it sometimes in like the social media groups and stuff. Sometimes it comes across as a little bit cult-like at times.
Yeah, well, I tell you what. I was never part of the gossip or the. This is not just martial life.
Yeah,
people gossip and bitch, and I was, there was a committee and stuff, and I was never, I was blissfully safe from politics until recent times, and I just got on well with everyone, didn't care, no one,
best way,
neutral. But I mean, I know no disrespect for Marshall, because that's what life's like. People don't get on.
Well, it is,
and I was invisible, really. I often miss them days now. I could just get on with it.
So, obviously training at Marshall Street then, and obviously trying to make your fame and fortune and the big smoke.
So I was doing well. I used to love Crystal Palace courses.
Yes. Yeah.
And that was, again, one other step nearer to Japan. So, I remember Tanaka and Osaka made the biggest impacts on me. And
I'm so glad I got to train with Osaka.
Osaka was just the best. Just fantastic, and almost like impossibly good. You can't copy it.
His kata was just like just the transitions were just incredible.
Smooth,
so smooth.
I think Richard Amos in his book he sort of seeing Osaka do Sochin. Because I always try to copy people. So the wrong people. Be like Bruce Lee, be like Terry O'Neill, and then I try and do Ota Sensei's karate, because it was very, very good. But I'm different. I'm tall, lanky, blah 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 blah. So Steve Cattle gave him that sort of permission to be yourself, which I thought was really good, because he was small and he didn't look like a karate man, but his karate was very good. So so the Crystal Palace was that another step nearer to Japan. And I went to the World Karate Championships as a spectator in Sunderland in 1990.
Oh, fantastic. Well, at the right time then.
And that was by then I'd already got myself a job in Japan. I was about to go. I went soon after that. And that was like, one of the best things I've ever done in my life.
So what was how did you find like that experience at in Sunderland? Because
inspiring. Because, Elwyn was fighting. So we were all cheering. But then I saw Kagawa's Sochin.
Yeah.
And Ihara did Unsu, and they were just epic. So I thought Elwyn and all that, the British team, Kumite was brilliant.
Yes.
But and Hazaguchi came third or fourth. He did Goju Show, and they were the guys I had eyes for, really. And I still, that's the karate I wanted to do.
But again, like that inspiring, because I remember reading Sensei Richard Amos's book and him saying, like, obviously seeing Yahara doing like Unsu.
Yeah. It was just, I suppose, it's more interesting. No, but it was. I think it's like it was authentic. It was like it's a bit. I don't know. I often think karate is a bit like religion. it's like I kind of wanted the pure stuff.
Yeah.
Because, if you think about karate in Europe was just very influenced by lots of other things. So I always like the idea of doing Japanese karate. I often say to my kids, we're going to do a Tokyo lesson now, and we do something like circle training, and I'll say I did this in Japan. That's what I kind of wanted to do, which is the complete opposite of when I went to America. They wanted to do American karate, and I think a lot of British karate associations, certainly some of the big ones, they had their brand of karate, and they weren't interested in anything else. No. So that's why I like Terry O'Neill, because I did quite a bit of Goju as well. He liked other styles. He told me Wing Chun was better than karate for punchers. Which, is it really? And Steve Cattle knew loads of stuff. And, and I always wanted to be like more of a martial artist than just a Shotokan guy. But what the Shotokan I wanted was JKA, down the line, Hambu Dojo, because I thought that was the purest form of Shotokan, which deep down I still really admire, love.
So you from being at the World Championships in Sunderland, then as you said, like you went.
Well, a few months later, I mean, the big shock about Japan is when you go to Japan and you've got a job, and you live in Tokyo, and there's no internet or no anything. It's really hard. Yeah. Because I lived in a place called Urasu on the Tozai line, which on the map looked quite close to Ebbis, and it wasn't as close at all. And then you got a job, and you got to, literally learn to live in Japan. Teaching English.
Teaching English.
I was teaching English, English teacher, and then that's a full-time job. So I got there, but shell-shocked, very excited. Tokyo was like, and just I had the address for the J. Ota gave me the address for it. Enoeda Sensei gave. So I go to Ebbis, find it, go. And this is a lovely moment. So I took this book like that, and I walk in. And I think joining JKA was something like, 10,000 yen or something, like 40 quid or something, if you weren't a JKA member. And I gave them the book, and they saw Enoeda Sensei's stamps. And Enoeda Sensei gave me my money back.
Oh, right.
And that made me feel like, that's the only time I felt at all welcome there. But that was magical. And then I wanted to train every day.
Yeah, but
and of course, I realised I never trained every day.
No.
So I trained every now and again. And that was, I gave myself hell for that. Really disappointing for that.
Was there a reason for that?
Well,
just because
it took me,
not
cost time. Mm-hmm. It just took me an hour and a half to get there on a train like that, and stress, and then I got injured. I fell off my bike.
All right.
So long story short is it was the biggest disappointment in my life for a long time. Now I didn't train every day at the JKA, but I trained 2 months, then got injured, then did about another month, and then I joined a Wado club. Mm-hmm. There was a Wado club in the town where I lived in Urasu, and I trained with them, which was actually really, really enjoyable. But the JK was amazing, and so trained with Osaka maybe. So the few times I managed to get a few days in, you get Tanaka, Osaka Sensei, Big Sheena would be there. Yeah. And it was electric. I mean, my forearm seized up with tension. But it was very hard, because everything's in Japanese, but it's still the best thing I've ever done. I mean, whatever happened, I've trained at Ebbis Dojo, and so I've made my peace with it now. Yeah. But I think what I should have done is gone back again a few years later and had some money, and just did it, and just had trained for 3 months every day.
Yeah, but I mean, what an experience to go over there.
Oh, no, in the end, looking back on it, I mean, I went to Japan not just to do karate. I went to Japan to live in Japan. Yeah. So I travelled the length of Japan. I've got Japanese friends, love Japanese food, know loads about Japan. So no, there's no regrets now. I think looking back on it, was just, I'd planned it badly. But I think you need a bit of luck.
Yeah.
I didn't have any luck, really, and also the other thing which messed it up was the split was on. So the atmosphere was very tense. The JK had split.
Oh, they'd split.
Right.
Yeah. Split, as in, they'd split. As in the split where it became JKS.
Yeah. But there was two JKs completely, and one I realised something was wrong because people started ripping the labels off the dogi.
Oh, right.
Because Tanaka owned Tokaido. There was some Tokaido issue. I think it's in Richard Sensei's book as well. But so they'd ripped the label off, the Tokaido one. Something, and then someone turned up in Hirota dogi, and I always had a Tokaido. So, and that was the only way you knew. But like, I didn't care.
Well, but like most people.
But I only cared because the atmosphere was really tense.
Oh, God.
I had a class with Abe. That was an amazing class as well. We did 2 against 1 kumite with.
Okay.
Yeah, and I got Aramoto, who was a Kenshusei, and someone else. And I got a black eye. I went to work, and the boss went mad at me. Because it did not a good look. And he goes, why didn't you play tennis? I go, I don't want to play tennis. So my boss hated me doing karate. And also, I didn't realise then karate was kind of looked down upon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so judo and kendo are like, there's slightly thuggy element to karate.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it is a bit, you might, well then, not now.
Yeah.
And then there was a little bit of, a little bit like maybe... You might look at, I don't know, amateur boxing club, or maybe not even boxing. Yeah, there was just something a little bit rough house stuff, especially if you had turned up with a black eye. If you have a cauliflower ear, you're okay.
Did you ever manage to train? Was it at Nakayama's?
I trained in the Hotsugan many years later.
Yeah,
but no, because that was at 7:30 in the morning. That was.
Oh, right.
Yeah. No, I had what I realised in life is connections.
Yes,
connections are really important. And pre-internet. You have no connections.
Yeah.
And I was also very shy because Ota Sensei said to me, when I'm in Japan, give me a call. And I didn't because I was shy. Right. And that was, again, a mistake. But then I also had a life. I was teaching English every night, going out every night, meeting friends. Yeah. It was a good life. And the Wado was great. I mean, the Wado club was all kumite, really, which was really good. Yeah. And I loved doing, we did, every class was the same as circle training. You do 40 punches and either side and 40 kicks and a few bits of basics and then an hour and a half of kumite, which was really good.
Quite like locking up together.
No, just sports, fast. They were all lightning fast, but I was bigger than all of them. And because I was bigger than them, and it was just a normal dojo, it was a machi, a street dojo. So I was better than not a lot of them. So I could win. Yeah. And then every now and again, the Wado guys from Nihon University would come and just wipe me out. They filmed it one time. It was very Japanese. It's like if you get good, they knock you down. And I'd never, they did a competition first to 10 points. And I'd only ever done shogo whip on. And I lost 10-0.
doing the karate, obviously doing the karate out there at that time, did you feel that obviously being a foreigner in Japan, especially when you were training, there would be that thing of they would try and go through you?
Well, you're either a lovely novelty or they want to get you. So many years later, me and Scott Sensei, and we trained with the Tokyo veteran squad, all-style squad. And we go there thinking, oh, this will be all right. We're a load of old blokes. And the main teacher there was the veterans, or a former All Japan champion Goju guy, and that was proper full on. It was like the Wild west. You and they walk in. I mean, he goes, "What do you think?" I said, "I'm going to have to do this, aren't we?" And I got cut face, which was one of the best things I ever did. Yeah, proper. It was just like full on kumite non-stop and exhilarating. And again, one of the best things I've ever done. Yeah. So in Japan, it's a bit like it's not personal. It's just like what I realized in Japan. They were as scared as me as I was of them, because we're just different, aren't we? And like foreigners are unpredictable. This is in the dojo, and I'm bigger than them, so it wasn't. It was fine.
Yeah. Reading some of the karate books, if it was Sensei Richard's book, or
his level's way higher than mine.
But you look at, you read some of that, and and you sometimes you just, obviously if you're trying to, you in at that level, I don't know. Some of it was like, are they purposely like trying to hurt you? Fair enough. But I can understand again, like at that, if you want to be at a certain level, like with it being hard, like I have no misconceptions of if you want to be in the mix with the caliber, that caliber of people. That it's going to be hard, but then and I've got no problem with that. But then is it like verging on being a bit sadistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. One of the best lessons I learned was doing Gohon Kumite there. JKA Gohon Kumite. It was like really hard, really, really hard. And like, it really like, I still try and teach a version of that now where it's like really alive.
Yeah.
And like horrible. Or, you know, there's peril in it. Like Jodan means Jodan. And like you'll often get punched 5 times. And often counted full on as well.
Yeah.
You know,
it's that's the thing, like trying to get across to like the younger students and things like nowadays of like it's not just Jodan and like just.
I hate it. It's a waste of time. I say
yes,
don't make it a waste. I do. Yeah, I say don't make it a waste of time.
Yeah.
You know, and it's Ippon Kumite as well. As like really, Ippon Kumite should be like a sword fight.
Yeah.
You know, and it's dead. It
is.
Yeah. So thanks, you give students swords and say do it properly. So I think I always wanted that real deal. So I kind of, training experiences in Japan, training with the veteran squad, one of the best things I've ever done. You know, doing some sessions at JK, getting beaten by the super students at from Nihon University, beating me 10-0 with super fast kumite. It was great. Again, because, I'm not interested in stories about me doing good. I want stories about, me learning something. And training with people better than me.
You're a true student of the art.
Definitely. I mean, what I realised again was how useful Marshall Street was or Steve Cattle was. It wasn't necessarily better in Japan. It was just different. It was just Japanese.
Well, there's again, these different instructors and people that you've trained with, they've just helped mold you who you are, or they've helped you move along your karate journey. You've taken something from each and every.
All these stories have got little bits of.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Sometimes I think I've got too many stories.
Well, you can never have too many stories, I think. But so how long would you say you was in Japan?
Yeah,
so
I mean the other thing I competed there, which was really great.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah, so with the masks on.
Oh, was that the one with the head guard?
Yeah. And that was the Chiba JKF Open Chiba All Styles Championships, and I was really lucky because I was 20. How old was I? 28 or something. And all the university students were in the under 25 section because they would have won. So I did. I got a silver medal in the. I knew I wasn't going to win. You could tell I wasn't going to win. They got. So but that was a fantastic experience. I mean that's the only medal I've got. I've never won a gold medal in a karate competition ever.
Right,
but I only entered.
2 of us then.
Three of us.
But I never. I only entered about 10 competitions and they're all big. Yeah. But that was just the sheer fun of doing it and being the only foreigner. And all eyes on me. That was a good day.
So when you came back from Japan, then where did you end up?
One of the reasons there was another crossroads in my life. So being in Japan, first year of work, I was offered another contract. Or I seriously considered just going freelance because I had enough connections then. I had private lessons with people and just going back to training at the JKA and just doing what I sort of wanted to do or come back and be a comedian. So I said, I was beginning to miss England. I was missing comedy. And something had happened in me in Japan as well. It reminded me that, I didn't want to, karate was my hobby or thing to do. I wanted a career. So I came back and went back to Marshall Street, really nice, did lunchtimes, did more and more comedy, got success. Wrote a show about living in Japan called Banzai, went to the Edinburgh Festival and did that, got a Perrier nomination, which is a good.
Yes.
And then suddenly I was off and running. Again, the whole thing fitted together. So I don't know, I've talked too much, but I got a review in The Guardian and it said something strangely beautiful has happened to Simon Bligh from being a sort of a good run-of-the-mill circuit comedian. He's, produced blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And so the whole journey was, one of the best things I've ever done in my life, changed my life again. Oh. So then I just fitted into this routine of Marshall Street 3 times a week, running, working, showbiz, travelling, sometimes less training. Really.
Was you doing like the comedy, like all around the country?
Comedy store, comedy circuit. Then I did a lot of work for the army. So I've been all around the world, in Afghanistan, Falklands, all sorts of places for them. And I was very successful.
Oh,
Telly, you know, all that kind of stuff. So that
can you name drop some of the shows you were on?
Yeah.
Well, yes, Friday Night Live, I suppose. But no, mainly rubbish. I was big on Channel 5.
Channel.
I can't remember. I did a Harry Enfield show. I was in that one time. And then did some writing for Lily Savage. So it was good.
Wow.
So I had a really nice... I always wanted to be more than a karate man. Because I've met lots of people who were... So I know some people in karate who are very bitter and sort of twisted and, you know, very, very good at karate, but a bit skint and a bit lost, you know, and I'd never wanted to be one of them. And also, you know, they're much, much better than me. So I always wanted to be more than just a karate man. I wanted to have that's a big part of me, and then have a separate life.
Yeah.
So, you know, not in, which I still continue to do. I mean, I work in a special needs school now, so it's good. You know, I feel as though I've got a nice balance in your life. So many years later, when we trained at Kyo University, or now we've got a link to Waseda University, they have a different lineage of Shotokan. Their Shotokan's quite different from the JKA Shotokan, but they've all got jobs, you know. So we say they're all barristers, lawyers, or doctors, or business people. So their karate is not as good, undeniably not as good as JKA karate, but they're very rounded people. Yeah, you know, and they don't charge anything. And I'm a bit of a sort of philanthropist, really. I mean, I'm not good with money. I like, you know, I'm slightly uncomfortable about charging lots of money for things. That's just me.
No, I can understand.
So again, I'm always quite interested. So training at Kyo was really seeing those people, again, really friendly, but good, and just a different set of knowledge. You know, so Kyo karate is much more like Funakoshi's karate. And they did Seunchian and Tensho and all the sort of karates that I've done from Goju, which is really nice as well, and just different from Takashoku, because Takashoku University was the sort of colonial university for the Japanese Empire, a bit like, you know, in the old days, some universities would have sent all people to India to do the empire. Takashoku sent people to China and stuff. So after the war, they couldn't do that. There's no empire, so they trained people up to teach karate around the world. And, you know, teach it very well.
Did you ever get a chance to do karate at Takashoku?
No connections.
Yeah, that's the saying.
But I don't mind, because I've trained at Kyo and I've trained at Waseda. You know, I've kind of been there and done that now.
So what brought you? So obviously, I wasn't training at Newark at this point. I know Sean says he can remember. He can remember you
fondly. I hope.
Then, but still, what brought? Because obviously, you became a member at Newark Karate Club.
I did.
Newark
so what happened was, show business is a very unhealthy lifestyle, and part of me just didn't like it anymore. There was a lot of, you know, tiring, a lot of drinking culture, and also a massive ego. You've got to be, you need a massive ego. And I got a bit bored with myself and maybe the man I was becoming, because you're constantly selling yourself, trying to pick. And I remember in the Groucho Club, like I was in that world, right? And I hated it. There was loads of drugs and stuff, and I really didn't like it. So I came out one day and I chucked my membership card in the bin. And I just decided that I wanted to get out of London. So my partner at the time, my wife at the time, she was from Retford, and my daughter had just been born as well. And I just thought, this is not good for me, this lifestyle anymore. It's not good for my mental health, you'd say now.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought, you know, I was nearly on telly, did a pilot very near and didn't get it, and it did my head in. I did a pilot for BBC One, and John Plowman, the guy, said, this is really good, but we're going to be use Lee Evans and Phil Jubitus this year. And it's like a dagger in my heart, close but no cigar. And good on them, they were great. So it's very much like, I can't keep on doing this, because if I do, it was going to kill me, really. Yeah. So then we moved up here, and I still did comedy, which looking back on was really hard, because I ended up driving to London. But I was out of the lifestyle. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I remember like Sensei Phil Rake saying there, like once, I think... by the time we ended up having a beer, we all had a beer together at my house, and I think that's again, Sensei Phil's got such a bit like yourself, is like a photographic memory for karate days gone past.
I know too much.
And Sensei Phil's like, I've definitely met him before.
Yeah, he would have done.
It was at the comedy club in Nottingham. Was it?
Oh, okay. Just a Tonic. Jonglers.
I think he said. And he says, do you know why? He says, because like during his routine, he put his leg out and like held this he says he held a kikomi on Marshall St Dojo. Then he goes, I remember looking at him now because it's just I could the way he said. He says, and I knew he'd done some training.
Yeah, I always again karate. My comedy was very physical. I used to do the splits at one stage. And I used to do a lot of physical sort of comedy. And at one time, I used to do a big side kick. I'm a show off, you know. So anyway, so then I moved to Retford. And no disrespect for Retford, there was no good karate clubs there. I mean, again, I wanted to be I didn't want to be the best guy in the room, sort of thing. Yeah. So then I came to Newark, and it was and they were the split had happened now, and they because when I came back, I went JKA. I was happy to be. I didn't like the KGB. I didn't like the karate. I didn't like anything about the KGB, and so I was very happy to be JKA. I had a JK license and stuff, and met Wayne Sensei and trained there for a while. But I'd still be there today probably. But there was Shotokan Karate magazine, again another magazine, had an article about Scott Langley Sensei and Enoeda Sensei, JKS, and they had he had a course on in Nottingham. Again, all this is no internet, just on. So I wrote
was it just down. You saw about a course, or was it something?
No, there was an article about Scott doing the instructor's course.
Okay.
So he'd done, and he's coming back, and it was really interesting. And I just thought, well, he's trained in Japan. He's done the JKS instructor's course. I've got to meet him. It'd be like if Richard Heseltine Sensei had done something that I would have gone to see him. So it's just again the right place because I got all the magazines. So I went, and we just got on. So we did tube training. I'd never done tube training before, punching with tubes and stuff. Yeah. And I was sick. And then I went to the toilet. And then I came back and I did this and then kept on going. And he comes up to me, he goes, I like you. Do you want a pint? Yeah. Like Steve Cattle. And then we just got on. And then
was that like an instant? Oh, because I was saying with you and Scott Sensei.
We made a connection.
We definitely like a good connection
there. Yeah. Because we both loved Japan. He was very good at karate. I knew a lot about karate, and I wanted what he had. And he was the first person, despite all the other instructors had shown that, who could articulate the techniques of karate better than anyone else I'd trained with. Because I've got millions of videos, VHS videos and stuff. I remember getting Stan Smith's kata videos and being really disappointed because he just did the kata, And then Kagawa Sensei brought a really good DVD out. I can't remember what it's called now, but I think he does how to do Shuto, how to do Mayageri, and it's really good, really just So I think so. Scott had that language of explaining. He wouldn't say twist your hips. He'd say think about driving from your heel, you squeezing your inner thigh, or pulling your shoulder blades back. All the way I teach now. And I just thought, I want to do this.
I think when I came and trained with you and Scott Sensei in Sheffield a good while back, that would be like my thing. It was just interesting seeing the way Scott teaches. Yeah. And again, the explanation, and I think that control over his
isolation stuff.
The isolation and control of his limbs, of like saying it, when people say, okay, feel it from the floor, but you can see him engaging his ankle, through the knee. Like you say, the isolation, and that was the first time I'd ever really seen someone do it like that. Yeah. And it was, I was just like, that's really good how you can.
We did squad training yesterday with Stuart Amos. Sensei did the class, and with the kata training we did Gidambarai Oyazuki. Mm-hmm. That was it. And most of the time we actually didn't do Gidambarai Oyazuki, and we just talked about twisting hips, sinking your weight, and it was an hour and a half of that, and no one was bored, and it was really really interesting. And when we could have just done. Chinte 25 times. And and there was no faster, harder, stronger. It was all about...
Why not? Isn't that
Yeah. And I mean, the other one, which the big revelation was all the Kato students. Because, so the people who joined were often students. So Scott was Kato Sensei students, Alan Campbell was, and all these people, and they were all good. And then they all knew stuff I didn't know, which made me angry. And then they knew all these katas, like the Junro katas and stuff. Yeah. And I was like, why don't I know this stuff? Because I know everything. And then, you know, I only trained with Kato twice, and he was very good, but he'd never done that Junro stuff. And then, so we started learning then. And I, again, really liked, you know...
That Junro cats just twist my melon.
Yeah, well, I think there's too many of them.
Yeah.
Now. But, I mean, just things like, you know, spinning and stuff. And you know, the sort of stuff I do with Rick Jackson now is disruptor stuff. So Junro means next level. And I think I teach them like for people when they get to Shodan. Just because when you think you're getting good, you go, oh, we're going to do...
Well, now I think they bring them in at like, is it green belt?
Well, they do it for competition now. And Asai Sensei did them as training katas. Right. And he made them up and then forget them. And, you know, they've tried to catalogue them now. And no disrespect to them, they can do what they want. But I would think, controversially, Asai Sensei would be appalled if they were doing them in competition because they're training katas. So I used to do Rantai quite a lot. And it was called difficult foot, and it's all kicks. And Scott said to me, you shouldn't do that because you're good at kicks. He said, Asai designed that kata for people who weren't good at kicks. Right. So that's the side of, you know, so he was always looking for the training katas. So, I mean, sometimes I'm always a bit suspicious of people who know a million katas. Yeah. You know, because then they've just become the million kata people. Or maybe I'm just jealous of them. Actually, I think I'm just jealous of them. I take that back. I don't dislike them. I hate them because they can learn kata and I can't.
Well, I mean, I know you were saying, like, obviously, you coming back to, like, obviously you trained at Newark. Yeah. And I know Sensei Wayne. I don't know. Like, so I was thinking how we met. I mean, I think was either I'd seen. I don't know, I think we'd just come across each other on like social media.
This thing called the internet came out. I do remember Sean. I think I told him off because I was quite hard in those days, and I think I told him off because he was good. I think I said to him, "You're good, but you're lazy." Because I think it was him. I think it was because he was. I remember him being good, but he annoyed me because like he'd have a high stance and stuff, and you know when because I was old school. Like if someone was talking, and he wasn't, and I was going. Bend your knees. So.
I remember you.
Do you?
I do remember you because we used to train at the Grove, didn't we?
Yeah, the Grove. That's right.
It was a Tuesday or Thursday night.
Yeah,
and you always used to be like in the corner.
Yeah, that's
and I sort of used to be at the back.
Right.
And you used to go all in to the point your gi was
I'd always be sweaty. Yeah.
And it's just like.
Who's he?
Wow, this guy.
That was me, yeah. And Rosemary was there, the two older people.
Oh, Rosemary was
yeah. No, I was. That was,
yes.
I was very, very sweaty karate.
But I mean,
still
I know Sensei Wayne is even accredited you because I know at times he's like, you know, as I think we all do at times, you have your ups and your downs either like with karate or with whatever else, with life. And I know he got to a point once. I think he was like, you know, probably on the verge of just thinking, I've had enough.
I know, because we got on well with him. And his dad, just like his dad, we used to go for a pint with his dad afterwards. Which I always like going for a pint afterwards. No, I mean, and see, Wayne was good at kata as well, which was, you know, it was great. But Scott was just the right place, right time. And that was the next chapter of my life. So I joined the JKS. And within a few months of knowing Scott, I was in Japan doing Kangekko. Mm-hmm. And, you know, suddenly I'm, you know, training with Kagawa and Yamaguchi and all these people. A lot of people, I knew Kagawa, but people I hadn't heard of. And training every day with them, you know, proper scary, hard kumite and stuff. And I loved it. And then we trained with Tamon Sensei in the mountains. So it was like the beginning of karate adventures. And we trained with another guy Kina Sensei somewhere in Tokyo. No, just adventures, just great stuff. And then just continually did that. And then Kagawa Sensei would come over every year. Scott would translate. Koiki Sensei, he was great. I got on really well with Koiki Sensei. Fifth Dan, really, I did kumite with him from a Yondan. That was eventful. But wonderful. But he was just, again, spoke really good English and got on well with me because I asked him, he was asking me about history of karate and stuff. And we got on really, really well. Really exciting times, yeah. So,
obviously, you've met Scott, joined the JKS. This is the way. So when you went wrong. So when you joined the JKS, where were you training at this point?
In Hucknall.
In Hucknall.
I mean, I was. slightly controversially, Asai Sensei came over for a course, a big course that Scott did. So I was still JK member. I was training at Oasis about once a month. If it was the gig in London, I'd do the Friday. Still on very good terms with Adele, Sensei was there. But I still enjoyed Florence and people were there. So I just go there, really nice, have a coffee afterwards. But I was busy life. And then Asai Sensei came over with Kagawa, Yamaguchi, all the JKS Hombo instructors, and a course in Crawley, I think it was. And Matt Price was there. Loads, all karate people were there.
Matt Price
He hadn't joined, not yet. He hadn't joined. But, and then email had just sort of happened. And I got an email from the JKA saying, be careful who you train with. And I was really disappointed and angry. And I just thought, why wouldn't I train with Asai Sensei? So that was, and then, so I started training regularly with Scott. And then I just thought, I've got to make a decision here. So I jumped ship. I found it very hard because I was emotionally attached to the JK.
Like, why do you? Again, I don't. Obviously, we neither of us really want to get like too political on it. But like, why do you think that they would like they send organisations they send emails like this? Like, what is it they're truly like?
Kind of like what's
scared
the motive? Isn't it?
No. Like, what are they? What are they scared of? Like, they're
scared of losing customers.
Yeah.
Let's be honest about it. If it's about control.
Yes.
It's a bit like if you're a Catholic and then if they find out you go to the Protestant church, you go to hell. Yeah. I don't know, but I was very disappointed because at that stage I thought I was a nobody. I didn't have an organisation. I was also doing Goju-Ryu regularly as well. They never seemed to worry about that. I don't even know how they knew though, because there was no pictures, and they must have had a spy.
Well,
so it's very disappointing.
This is what you'll find is that you'll probably have. There will be someone there that's trying to stab you in the back.
Well, many years later, when all this happened with Scott, some two guys I really respected, two 5th and 6th dans, came to do a course with Scott. They got there and they said, "We've been told we can't train." I just don't even understand that. And I said, well, why? Have you got your dogi? Yeah. I said, why don't you train? Don't tell anyone. We won't take a picture of it. He went, no, it's too risky. And these were men who were my age. Yeah. And I was, again, tremendously disappointed in them.
Yeah, so I just don't. That sort of as, I look at it as like you're a grown individual, and you someone's telling you can't do something.
No, it's the cult aspect of karate, and I think it's down to business in the end and controlling people. Yeah. And I think it's just doesn't. I don't understand, but I don't. I mean, I
struggle to understand it. But
for me,
you're on the right line of how I would think of that. There is that underlying sort of almost like cult aspect to it.
Yeah. Well, how dare they? But to be honest, if I hadn't got that email, I probably wouldn't have joined. I would have just been Scott's friend. Yeah. Because he never asked me to join. Yeah. He never actively said, "Why don't you join?" Because we were just,
But but it's like that. Yeah. Why? I look at it as why wouldn't you want to train with these people? With different people, because you're gonna. Ultimately, if you wanted to leave a association or a style of karate, because you enjoy, like you said, you've done Goju-Ryu. Yeah. It could have been a form like, do you know what? I don't really fancy doing that anymore. I'm just going to stick with Goju-Ryu.
Yeah, well, I nearly did, to be honest, around that time. Yeah, because I got sick of the politics of it all. Yeah, but then I said to my Goju mate, I said, I like doing Goju because there's no politics. And he went, oh, you. Yeah. But I just remember, I trained a couple of times with Kanazawa courses, and he was SKI. But no one knew or seemed to care. So I don't know. But that was just one of those.
It's just a shame that it goes
tribal.
Like
Karate's tribal.
Because
people are tribble.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, well, we're tribal.
True. But it's definitely insecurity.
Yeah.
Because I actively encourage my students to train with other people.
Likewise.
Same. To be fair.
I just think, why could it?
Yeah, but so there you go. People listening to this, they'll all have a story about it, I suppose.
But the thing is that is the thing. Deep down, everyone's probably got a story.
Yeah.
Something like that.
The one thing I say when people say to me, "I'm not interested in politics, karate politics," I misquote Lenin. And Lenin always says, "Don't say you're not interested. You can say you're not interested in politics, but politics is interested in you."
Yes.
And so sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just need to say. So I've said that now, and that's it.
Again, I don't think we're not. I don't think we're.
But I think the irony is, JKS, JK, SKI, they're all essentially doing Nakayama's JKA karate, which I'd like to think is, so is HDKI. And so it's a bit like we're all doing the same thing that we all love, with small variation.
So with a different slant.
And also because it's 21st century. JKA karate today is different from JKA karate in 1990 because all physical arts evolve. Yeah. And they have to. It's that the dynamic, they're not set in stone. If you watch Swan Lake in 1924 with Nijinsky, the genius of ballet, it'd be a bit rubbish compared to now. They'd all jumping 4 foot higher now and spinning faster. So I think sometimes the older generation of karate, which I probably am part of, talk about the old days and stuff, and they've got this karate that's set in amber, that's with rose tinted glasses, and going, that's the proper way. And karate will always change, it
evolves with the times.
Yeah, something. I'm sure we're going on for too long now, but I was in Finland the other day teaching, and I met there the guy, chief instructor there. He's armed police head of the armed SWAT patrol at the airport. So he's a tough guy. So a really nice guy. So go back to and I met his wife, and they're all lovely, chatting away. And she goes, "I don't know why you and Mikey, his name is, you're wasting your time practicing something that's meant for kids."
All right. Yeah.
And you know what? I laughed about it, and I thought, you know what? She's right. Modern karate now is completely, you don't have to sign a form going, And so that was quite interesting, that sometimes in our minds we still think sometimes perhaps we're doing this deadly fear no man stuff. And really, to a large extent, we're doing a recreational hobby for everyone.
That's an interesting way.
This takes to my point that I believe in shogai in Japanese, shogai budo. So karate's without ends, always training, new beginnings, and that's kind of talking to you now. A lot of my life's been new beginnings, not an end, a new start. So training at Newark was great, but then an end because something happened, a connection was made, and then we'd hold the JKS, all the other initials I've been through. Each one wasn't a catastrophic end. It was actually a new beginning and better. And so I've got my club in little village hall club. I opened out of despair, really thinking, I'll just train on my own. I thought I'd get some couple of men's. One mate, Paul Langley, was going to come and train with me, and the village hall. And then Field of Dreams, people came, and it's
did that lead on though because you
when Scott
didn't want to you didn't want to go and train in Hucknall, or was that when Scott left?
When Scott left JKS, I left with him, but hardly anyone else did, which was a massive disappointment to me. And again, politics, but I said at the meeting, which didn't go down well, I think we should all leave because Scott founded the JKS in England, and without him, none of us would be here. And that didn't go down well.
But you've said your piece, you've done the thing. It's not. I don't think it's not controversial.
But then suddenly I became
controversial. You just said how you felt.
Yeah, but then I became like the bad guy. Then that was the beginning of my bad guy years.
Well, you do seem to be tarnished with that brush.
I am. I'm the good bad guy, and all I've done is just follow my heart, So then I just thought, sorry, I then did more and more goju then in Maltby, which I really enjoyed, and I used to enjoy taking Shotokan people there because they couldn't do it. Because it was just a lot of physical training. And I remember taking someone who's trying to do Sanchin and use hip rotation, and he's going, "What's he doing?" I'm going to just push Tanren. Nice. And then I brought them one time to train, and they'd never done Juippon Kumite before, and they didn't block. So someone's bouncing around like that, and they stand there like that, and someone goes Mayageri and just kicking Mayageri, and he took the Mayageri and then just punched him in the face. And I go, "What are you doing?" He goes, "What's he doing?" So it's like worlds colliding,
So And opening your village club, you know, you're still enjoying that.
Loving it. I mean, to get a complete change. I mean, you know, maybe like there's this stage of, you know, all the world's a stage and men and women players. Yeah. I'm on this part now where, you know, getting older. I'm 65 this year. You know, don't be the young guy. You know, so my two mottos is don't let the old man in, but don't try and be a young man. You know, don't try and do young guys karate. So say again. Was training yesterday with Stuart Amos. He can be the guy. Yeah. There's no point me demonstrating. Look, he can do it. Yeah. So I think that's been a good lesson for me. And now I think maybe we've got 8 black belts have come through over those 10 years, and then we've got a whole community. We all went for a meal on Friday night, in Newark, and we've got and we all go for a pint in my village pub afterwards. You know, we've got. Again, that's karate's more than kicking and punching. Like your dojo here, there's community. Us becoming friends and all these connections all over the place now. Yeah. So it's not just punching each other, or it's not just doing karate. It's an enrichment of your life. A cultural capital, we call it at school. So you're doing stuff and you're interacting with people. And the only proviso to be in that gang is you need to train in the dojo. Yeah, yeah, you know. We've had a couple of mums in the old club who sort of, I miss you, or and I say, well, you can always come back, but you can't, you can't really come for a drink afterwards unless you've trained. So, and I love that. And we're all going to Japan in 2026 September. We're saving up. We're going over there, and with my dojo, and that's going to be like a little close of a circle to some extent, and we'll all be sat. We're training in the dojo, and then we'll be all in Izakaya, Kampai. So it's good. It's all good.
Good. So I know you like the saying, obviously, karate adventures.
Yes.
And is that's something that you, especially like after having your hip surgery and everything, that you're looking to?
Yeah, Kenya, HDKI Kenya. I'm hopefully going to go there in August. Yeah, I mean, don't stop. I always want to keep on moving. No endings. Yeah. But I think, I started karate, martial art, with a sense of adventure. That mystical East, cliched mystical chopsticks, mystical East thing, and the sense of the other. And I've always wanted to, to do that. My idea of hell would just be in the same dojo, doing the same thing week after week after week. And other people, that's all they want to do. But for me, I always want more, more adventures, and more things. I've always got an ambition.
And like obviously in there, like HDI Kenya, I mean, how is the HDKI like doing? I know you guys have taken on like more.
Well, we're just a community. We're not evangelical. I mean, I don't get paid for doing it, so it's not a business. It's just a community of people. Yeah. So Scott's a professional karate instructor. I think Stuart Amos is. Yeah. I'm not. So Kenya, I think Goodrich's guys there. I mean, they're just people. Yeah. So we're just sort of people who've sort of fallen by the wayside. A lot of them have had trouble with organisations. Yes. So, in fact, the Kenyan guys had a problem with them. Yeah. And in fact, I'll tell you, I'm not going to bear that. I named the association. They got some black belts from the Japanese organisation. I did the grading, and they never got the certificates. And they paid for them. And Kenya's quite poor, and they were very, very, very disappointed in that. So they just felt they were treated very badly. So again, another classic case of people not being treated well. So we get quite a few of them, and then we get other people who just like the karate that we do. Yeah. So it's not just Scott. I mean, they like other people, because they've got Steve Ubel and.
I'd love to train with him.
Steve Ubel is excellent. He's like sort of like I'm too intimidated to train with him. Really, I've trained with him because I can't do what he does. He's no form. It's like pum pum, and just all twitches and it's really nice. It's really top level karate. And the other person who is Rick Jackson Sensei, who I read his article in Fighting Arts.
Just give us a quick. I mean, for people that don't, maybe have not heard. Until I met you, I'd not heard of him. So just give a brief.
Rick Jackson was a KGB guy, tough, tall, very similar build to me. Is one of the reasons I like him, and he's a Buddhist as well. And he went to Japan in 1972, and because in those days you couldn't get a bank loan. He got a loan to buy a car, bought a car, and then sold it, and then went to Japan with a big load of money. And then he ended up getting deported in the end because he ran out of money. Right. But he trained at the JKA, the old Sudabashi JKA in 1972, and just got trained with, Yano, all the main people there. And Nakayama, he took his knee down with Nakayama in Japan. But I'll send you the interview, him with him. Inspiring stuff. But then he also did Goju-ryu and Yamaguchi, and he did Shotokai with Agemi Sensei. Do you know much about Agemi? No. Agemi Sensei, I was quite fascinated by him. He's got a book called Beyond Technique. He did Nakadaka Ken, a very esoteric style of karate. And he went to train with him, and they made him wait outside his dojo like for 2 hours in Seiza, kneeling down. So he went in, and so he trained with him. And he said Agami would look at you and you'd feel sick. He said it was like toxic. It's something called eagle eye or something. It's called Kung Fu called it eagle eye. He'd look at you like that, and he'd go. Because he was a spy in the war. I mean, I asked Noguchi Sensei in Japan, who knew him. He said you'd never train with him. He was a bad man. But that's why I'm interested in him. And then the other story is they said if you want to make some money, you should do kickboxing. And he goes, well, what's kickboxing? Because no one knew what kickboxing was in 1972. It was like Thai boxing. I mean. So they gave him some gloves, and he got $15 a fight. So he said he got knocked out in the first round with like a shin kick in it. And then he did about 4 of them. So then he trained with Kanazawa, and then he studied Zen. He met a guy called Takahashi Sensei, famous guy, who died in a motorbike crash. Everyone talks about him. And he did Zazen with him and stuck with that. So I don't know, he'd hate me for saying this, but he's a Zen master, and he does Zen karate. You train with him, you're always in stance. No one talks. Very, very intense. It's hard to explain. I think everyone should train with him, really. But also, he doesn't want anything, because I got him to do a course for us, and he didn't really want to do it. Didn't want any money. I love all that. And I said, can I interview you? If you did something like this, it'd be great. But he just doesn't want to do it. He's beyond all that now. Yeah. So he's a massive influence of me, and he's very inner karate now. And he only does Kankudai and the Tekis. He's 75, and during lockdown we did Zazen every week with him, which was just fantastic, And
he does seem like a really
interesting I mean, you can't really talk about Zen without talking nonsense, really. But so he is like a big influence on me. Yeah. Not that I'm anywhere near his level, but that's the sort of karate I'm interested in at the moment. And that's why when I do yoga now, that's another connection with all of that.
So, and did you? Well, moving on from Sensei Rick, but it's. I'd got Danny. He went to Japan for like a 3rd time.
I've been a few times now, maybe 15 times now. I think.
Wow.
Yeah. So because I went there twice as a comedian, and I went there with JKS about 4 times, and then maybe 6 times with Scott, whatever that is. Then quite a lot, more than 10. So each time, again, a karate adventure. So Okinawa was a good one. Been to Okinawa 3 times now. Right. So I went to Okinawa originally when I lived in Tokyo, with no connections. Got the boat there, and found a dojo like in a book. And I went there. There's a ballet class on, because you don't know it was the wrong day. So I ended up doing no karate in Okinawa the first time, and the second time was the JKS World Championships. We went there, which we trained with Tsuyama Sensei, Murakami, and Kagawa, all different associations, which was great. And then I've been twice with Scott, so 4 times to Okinawa, where we trained with Senaha Sensei in Goju-ryu, which is just lovely. And all the Goju-ryu I'd done was very hard, and he was 80 at the time, or 75 or something, and he had really nice soft Goju-ryu and. Like a next level,
I remember seeing, I'm sure from like social media or something, that you got to teach as well.
That was later on, yeah. So Well, the other one, that was maybe the highlight. So last time I went to Japan, Tako Nishito, who's my friend, and Honda Sensei, they're HDKI Japan now, and they asked me to teach there, and I taught a kids class in Japanese to them. And that was just a buzz, really. Because I'm a show-off, and I like teaching kids. I think the only thing I'd boast about, I think I'm very good at teaching kids because I work with children. So I've got a good methodology for teaching kids, and that went down really well.
No, I would say that, when you came and taught for us, that was a real eye opener to see how you teach kids, because it's hard, but it's also it's a skill to engage with the kids and try and keep it a bit fresh and interesting for them as well.
You've got to keep it fresh. I mean, also, the truth is, 70% of people in the world who do karate are kids. I'd say probably 20% are over 35, and the rest are in the middle. So kids are the future. And we were talking about Son and George Meister or Noah. They were kids. And now they're good karate people.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
I remember years ago, I taught a little bit in Bala. Me and Craig Senpai shared a dojo in Bala. It was one of them £15 off the council. So we sort of did it between us. Not for long, but I taught a kids class and the kid wet his pants the first one.
Oh, dear.
Because I didn't know how to teach kids and, shouted at them. And then so later on when I started teaching kids, I just used the stuff I'd worked, I invented a different way of doing it. Happy karate.
Yeah. I've heard you use that a few times.
Happy karate is good karate.
Yeah.
Because again, for much of our karate time, and I only enjoyed it when it was over. It made the rest of the life easy. When that was out the way, it's like sadomasochistic activity.
Also going back to when Scott Sensei was obviously left
expelled for writing a book. See, the other thing that was because when he said he was writing the book Karate Stupid, he sent me the draft of it, and I like books. Books have been through my life, and I said this is a great book. You've got to do it. And I said, well, maybe they won't like it. He goes, oh, well, they won't read it, and someone did read it, and they told him not to publish it, and he couldn't. He said he couldn't. They said you can't grade on it anymore, and you stay in your dojo for a year, and so that's a punishment. And it was like that's his job, that's his livelihood, and so he sat with me in my living room about this, and I just, he said I'm not going to do it. I said, well, don't. So then the
HDKI was born.
No. Then WTKO was formed.
Oh, WTKO. Yes.
And that's just a long, boring story, and that that didn't work out really because at the time we never thought we'd go independent because I was always JKA or was Japan. I thought JKS was JKA really, all the same. It was appalled that I thought we were going to be. Away from that, it broke my heart. Literally broke my heart because I loved training JK Hombo, loved training the JKS Hombo, I loved training with all those people.
So even after the WT,
we joined Richard's group, and there was I didn't fit in really there because he had a whole bunch of other people, and there was no organisation as such. There was good karate, but there was no organisation. And then Scott put that organisation in place, and then that didn't work either. And that was the best thing that ever happened to us. Because again, when that happened, I thought, that's it now. That's it. I'm just going to train on my own and be Scott's friend, and that's it. And then this happened. And then it's been great.
Was that like a big
but
step?
I'm still the bad guy. Very big step. But also, very hard for me, because I never wanted to be the boss of anyone. Because when there was WTA, I ended up, having to deal with people that I didn't want to deal with, or they had to deal with me, and I found that very awkward. Because very hard, and it's very hard to form a karate organisation.
I was going to say, maybe
especially when you don't want to.
Yeah, maybe I was going to say, what was that like? Obviously, creating an organisation.
Well, it's exciting because, people I've got friends who. I was done. Actually, I'm not sure how it happened. I got invited to teach at some dojos, and then I became some friends of mine, John and Sandra and Andrew, they're all friends of mine, I'm 20 years friends. But I became best friends with people. So people joined because of me rather than Scott. And that was, interesting. But then it was just, it was just very hard. And people, lots of people I didn't get on with. And, you've got to let them in your life. And I didn't, it was very hard. I can see why organisations fall out, and because it's a nightmare. Yeah. And my biggest nightmare was, A, I didn't want any money for it. And then B, I didn't want the hassle. And then C, I'm not comfortable being a bad guy.
But what you keep saying, why are you the bad guy? Why?
Because it's just because people fall out with me. Yeah. I mean, the other thing I learned, again, I discovered independent people. So there's a lot of people that you won't know, maybe I don't know, who have some history, who've done karate with, that sounds rude, but no pedigree. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, so let's say there's a couple of people, I'm sure they won't be listening to this, they were fourth or fifth dan, self-graded, who had no respect, for me, or even Scott. They didn't care that all the things, I'd been at Marshall Street or Scott's been in Japan, because they were sort of like business karate people. And they joined WTKO at the time, as it was. And looking back on them, we shouldn't have let them join, because now I'm quite picky now. Not picky, because, there's certain people that I think aren't a good fit. Like anyone who's a self-graded fifth dan joining, who's not very good, I need to say, I had one guy, he joined and he said, I want to do my sixth dan. And I said, well, you're not good enough. And that went down really bad. And then Scott said, no, you can do your sixth dan. What you need to do is train with us for about 7 years, and you can do it.
There's just
and that was then they left. So it's just I had to deal with stuff I didn't want to deal with, and looking back on it now, I think that was partly my fault or Scott's fault, because we shouldn't have formed that association. It's like going out with the wrong girl.
But do you know what I mean? What do you think that draws people to the HDKI these days?
Well, I think you'll find we've got a very interesting introductory offer.
Yes.
You get a license, you get a free pen.
Oh, Parker pen, is it?
Yeah, Parker pen. Now, I don't know what draws people to us, really. Lots of people just don't move. Say recent events in the karate world, where someone went to prison. I thought any self-respecting person would leave that group. Because if someone goes to prison for a sex offence, there's something rotten there, So if that doesn't make people leave, me leaving because someone told me not to train with Asai seems very trivial. So lots of people don't leave, because again, lots of people aren't switched on, don't know. Yeah. It's a bit like, why do people vote for Donald Trump? Because a lot of them don't care, don't listen to it, or something like that. So, what we have are just super reasonable. Mm-hmm. My rule is generally, when people often ask me, is it all right if I do this? And I say, if you think it's reasonable, it's pretty likely I'll think it's reasonable. Yeah. And, the only rule for instructors is they must have professional indemnity insurance, must have enhanced DBS, they must have an HDKI license, and they must use HDKI Q certificates, which are £1.50, and register them with us.
So if anyone takes the Q grade examiner's test or license, is that something that they have to pay and renew?
No, free,
year?
Free, totally free. You do it with me, it's free. Yeah. And everyone passes in the end. So, it's not, let's see, it's 4 questions with follow-up questions. And one question would be, what is the Q grade examiner looking for in Gohon Kumite? Explain what the role of Tori is, explain what the role of Uki is, and explain how to do, and explain what makes it valuable and not a waste of time. Something like we've talked about before. Yeah. Or and then the other one would be pick any combination from the HDKI first Q syllabus and explain the important points and what the examiner's looking for. Or why is Teki Sandan such a challenge for 4th Q candidates? So it's written answers, and then I'll do a couple of follow-ups after that. And sometimes the answers are great, sometimes they're not so good. But in the end, we'll have a phone call in the end, because it's about respecting people. If someone's 3rd dan, and especially if someone's trying to make a bit of a living from their karate, they should be able to grade people to first Q.
Well, so this is like what I can say. Obviously, you can see in again, other associations, not just Shotokan, whatever. If someone is wanting to make a living from karate, they're very restricted.
Yeah, but even like at my dojo, I don't make a living. It just means we have funds for the club.
Yes.
Do you know? So that it's that simple as that, really. And also, it's that madness of Like there was one guy who was a financial advisor, had a dojo in Leeds, and big successful dojo, and he was paying somebody to come from Manchester to do his gradings for his big club. And I said, and they were the same grade. And I said, why was I not a Q grade examiner? And you're thinking, but, you're a financial advisor. Why, so that type of thing. Yeah. And I think that is nonsense. And I don't know why people, and if you're a third Dan, you have your own dojo, you should be able to grade your own students. And I always say to them, I don't interfere. I say, you get on with it. Just make sure that they're good enough for Shodan. And, and they are. Yeah. Across the board, they are. So that's great. So, so it's giving someone some autonomy. But the best thing you get from us is community. Yeah. And, really, I shouldn't say this. You can actually, you don't even need to be in it because you can still come on courses. Yeah. You can still look on YouTube. Yeah. That's the thing. You're not, anyone, people constantly say to me, "Oh, is it open to all?" Yeah, just come. Why not? And at the bottom line, we've got Nagaki coming over, Enoeda Sensei, which is like a big thing for us. For me, personally, I'm delighted to have him. And like someone said, can anyone come? Yeah. I tell you what, I need you to come because I don't want to lose money on the class. But also, I want to share my enthusiasm for I think the strength of we're not one-trick pony. So we've got Paolo Balaflio coming, who's a genius.
I saw Stuart obviously advertising he got him. He was
in Shirai's organisation, Shirai, the JKA version of the Shirai one. And I think he got to 7th Dan with them. So he's proper. And then he studied Kung Fu for 20 years as well. He's one of the best martial artists I've ever seen. Like Steve Ubel, Rick Jackson are people like, gods, karate, Kame Sensei, god senseis. So I'm not evangelical about people joining anymore. In fact, I'd rather people not join if they're not going to fit in. I get weird. I had some guy recently rang me up. A lot of people ring me up, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm thinking of joining HDKI. I've done a bit of Shotokan, but I'm like 5th Dan in Kempo, American Kempo." And I'm going, okay. And then he came to the tournament to sort of talk to me, and I just said, I don't know what to do with it. Because you don't really do Shotokan. You're independent. I just steered him away really because I know that's going to be a problem because I know he'll want to do his 6th Dan at some stage.
But it was the course that I came along to one time where you had Julie Nicholson,
yes,
and John Holsworth. Julie to me is like again. Looking at like what she's achieved, but she's so grounded. There's no ego she's got there.
I've been to their house, and she's got no medals, no anything up.
Yeah,
they've got a dojo in the house. There's loads of training stuff. Yeah. But I've been to I don't know. John and Sandra, my friends, great friends. You go into their house, they've got a big thing of medals, which is fine. Not criticise them, but it's just really a sign of a modesty. She might want to have like 16 national champions. So when she rang me up to
get
join,
her on the show,
I can be arranged. Yeah. They're doing my camp again in August, so they'll be in the area. Yeah. But then they rang me up to join, and they invited me to teach for them. Which I was like a bit. I was like. One of the things since I've done this, I've really had to step up because I'd never taught properly. I've never taught properly. Still don't teach properly, but I'd never taught seriously before 2000 until the JWTO stuff really. Yeah. So that was a big step for me. So in looking back on it, it's a good step, but constantly it's hard. Constantly proving yourself, not proving yourself, all that kind of stuff. So teaching them, and then they liked what I taught. And again, a bit like they said, why don't we know this stuff? And John knew it in his way because he's got a really technical, way ahead of his time, sports science mind, way ahead. And now they're just so on board. It's wonderful, And I'm interviewing her for Shotokan Karate magazine. So
excellent.
Yeah, which again, I had to tell her, I had to boss her around a bit because they're modest. I admire that.
But there's lots of modest. That was like why originally I had the thought of starting the podcast is because there's so many people out there that it's like everyone's that aren't like a big name that you might have heard of, and everyone's saying, "Oh, have you heard of this person?" That was like, there's so many people out there.
The story
and
like your dad.
Yeah, my dad, Phil, and I see it with with John and Julie, like they've got like the stories that they must have, and you know, again, like just, again, it must be just great to have them.
Well, also it's great to have them technically.
Yes,
I mean, they're seventh dans. John's a Dan grade examiner, obviously. HDKI seventh dans. There was sixth dan for 20 years and totally overlooked. Not that grades matter, but it did matter to them. So I'm very proud. I mean, they're the highest HDKI grades, you know, in England, and you know, and John's definitely my senior, you know, but they've become dear friends. Yeah. I mean, I was with them yesterday, and they're doing our squad now. They're doing it all out of they're really working. We've got passion, really good passion.
I remember it was your HDKI competition.
Last
year. I was coaching.
Yeah, you were great.
Thank you. And it was the final. I think you were reffing.
Probably.
And we had Jude from Newark and against Judy Sensei's, I can't remember his name,
Riley.
But brilliant little black belt.
Very good,
Brilliant final.
He was there yesterday.
Was he?
Yeah.
He's just
still
brilliant.
Good.
And it was just like afterwards, you know, the coaches shaking hands, and I'm like, I'm shaking hands with Julie. It's just like.
But what was nice about that, well, you at that competition, and was it Sharon?
Janet.
Janet.
You were the same sort of hands-on, nurturing.
Yeah,
which I'm a big fan of, kids. And John and Julie are like that, very much team thing, you know. Yeah, I hate refereeing. I see that's another thing. I know, I had to organise it. But I've got a big team of people who do it now. Because I remember the first WTK one ever in England, I had to organise in Burnley. Oh, and it was a nightmare. I'd never organised a competition. I never wanted to, and I never wanted to referee. My ambition is to be able to be the group to have enough good officials that I never have to referee again. Can't stand it.
What does the future hold for HDKI?
The future will be we've always wanted a legacy. So I don't want to be doing this for much longer. So I'm technical director, which is a very sort of, you know, and we've got a committee, a really good committee. John and Julie are on the committee as well. Stuart Amos and Jenny, who's one of my students, is secretary, and he's got a good committee, 5 committee, and it's I'm a bit of an anarchist, really. No, I am. I don't like rules. I like sort of intuitive. I think
that's probably why we get on.
You know, people can do anything they want, but I mean, we want good karate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So HDKI principles, right? Yeah. You know, do good karate, have karate adventures, be kind. Yeah. You know, they are really, really, and like, you know, when we sort of be kind people, it doesn't mean you were soft, but you know, do the right thing. Yeah. You can still be, you know, we have a big stick, but wield it, you know, very, very lightly, or not at all. So I want to nurture people, but it's not about me. I mean, I think Scott and I will be not in any leading role within the next 5 years. Probably me less because I'm old. And you know, I mean, and then there will be, well, you know, possibly Stuart Amos will take over for a while. Because, you know, there's too many old men in karate, too many old men in politics, too many old men in the world.
Sometimes you've got to let you know, I think that this is just my view personally, the old guard they've got their place and that information.
I mean, like, you know, the JKA, again, I still love this idea of the JKA. And my opinion is, you know, which is Oshi Sensei is a legend of karate and best kumite guy ever, whatever. They should have made Naka head. That's just my opinion. You know, again, I don't fall out with JKA people, but I just think someone like Naka is a young, visionary, talented guy. You know, he was the guy I would say that would just maybe bring the Osei together. I don't know, but you know, like Kanazawa was chucked out because he was too sparkly. People got very jealous. So you know, Kanazawa was like the golden boy, and he was getting really, really. So they expelled him, and he was people forget that now. He's like a respectable figure now. And then he had the tenacity to sort of start his own group. And that was like groundbreaking. And, you know, suddenly, you know, he was the best guy in the JKA. They chucked him out, so he formed his own group. And that was the beginning of this splitting thing. Yeah. You know, I've just remembered now, the first time I came across any sort of politics, Asano was going to do a course in Liverpool. And I was really excited because I'd never trained with a Japanese sensei before. And then we got a letter from the KGB saying you cannot attend the Asano course. And then they said it was cancelled. Now, I should have got on the bus to find out if it was cancelled or it didn't go. But they actually sent a letter to like a 17-year-old KGB member.
All right.
It was very, very weird. I must have had a list of people who'd booked to go on it.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, we're not like the other organisations. I think that's our superpower.
Yeah.
But you know, it's really important to me we have good karate. So it's really important that we got someone like we got good karate cat in the group. People maybe you won't know. Everyone knows Stuart Amos. Everyone knows John and Julie. We've got solid, good karate people.
I mean, obviously, I know when we had Matt Price Sensei come teach, and then we met up. I know you'd got Stuart and Ross.
Ross. All the guys from Ireland and girls from Ireland are great.
Yeah.
You know. And we also, you know, we sponsor. We got a charity called Fair Fight we work at. We sponsor a girl from Zimbabwe who's at college in Holland. And so we do good stuff. Really.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, I remember even back from the KUGB days, like we used to raise money for the charity all the time.
We also do. There's the Hombu Dojo in Ireland. Anyone can go there and train for free. They've just done Kangekko there free, online Kangekko free. It's not about the money. So they do an internship, and we've got Stuart's did it.
Yes.
You get €400. You do it for a month. You get 400. You're spending money, you know. And you sleep in the dojo, so it's a bit austere. And you train every day, and then you assist every class, and then you teach classes. So it's like a training course and a teaching course. And you don't get a certificate. You just get the experience. You don't get like a formal qualification. So we've got 2 more people doing it this year. Amelia's doing. We're trying to get really pushing women. I love Julie to bits, but I constantly say, step up, because you're good and you're a woman. And you know, so she teaches on our Christmas course, and she's possibly the only woman who teaches big courses in England. I don't know if there's anyone else. I know sometimes, So anyway, that's that type of thing. Yeah. So anyway, we're doing JKA HDKI Dublin will give them €400. We give them £400. So it just means you've got some money to live in Dublin because Dublin's quite expensive.
Yeah.
Just use the money wisely and don't keep it all. Don't keep it all under the floorboards. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
If you don't know, I'm not telling you.
But
don't buy a house cash.
And I think again, I get on quite well with Stuart, and it's and I think you've got a great.
Stuart was our catalyst. So when we were in the JKS, Matt Price, who's brilliant, joined, and Nick Heald. I trained with every Wednesday with him for a while, and they were the catalyst. They brought some energy in. Because it was a bit, and that. So when Stuart joined, and John and Julie joined, and all the Liverpool Dojos joined, and a lot of people joined, that was like a watershed moment, and that was like, so we've got a new energy really. So we're kind of, we're on a wave at the moment, and so.
Well, I think Stuart. I mean, and we're speaking with Stuart, and I'm really on board with his, I know he uses, like your karate adventures, he's got his slogan of,
karate without borders. No,
to
be honest, that's a perfect synthesis. He's really added really well to that.
Yeah.
And he's,
And it's letting other people know, yes, you don't, look, if, say, you're in the JKS, or you're in the JK, or you're in this or that, or this, it doesn't matter. Just come and train. Come and train together. Yeah, that's what it. Just I know. I'll probably sound like a heretic saying that, but just
but be a heretic.
Yeah. But
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. Just go if you want to go and train with them. Go and train with them. If you want them to come and teach at your dojo, see if they'll just come and do it. I mean, I remember I'd read Richard Amos's book, and it just really spoke to me.
It's a good book.
I'd just messaged him on Facebook and just said, would you be interested in coming to teach like a class for me? Well, no different to you or Stuart or even and Matt Price. I mean, Matt was a little bit more, it was probably a little bit, again,
he probably got into trouble for it.
Well, no, like in an introduction of we know a mutual friend of knowing Richard Heselton. So you got like a bit of an introduction there. I was probably just a bit bold with Stuart and just, would you be interested in coming to teach? Just reached out. Ultimately, we all just want to do karate.
But also, some of those people, most of them, apart from me, are professional karate instructors. So it's a gig. When I was a comedian, I'd gig for anyone because something paid me. I did some gigs like corporate gigs for company, and the only gig I wouldn't do was British Aerospace. But generally, you know, it's a job. It's his job. You know, and so that's,
I think like long as again, if you're the person getting them into your dojo, as long as you don't feel like you're being taken advantage of.
No,
financially.
No, but I mean, all those people are actually, they all do fundamentally JKA proper Shotokan. Basically, we're all singing on the same hymn.
The thing that
with mild variations and different degrees of quality.
The thing that made me laugh though was I think like when Sensei Richard Amos came to teach, which was it was a fantastic course.
Brilliant.
Was someone came up to me from a different association and it was like this bewilderment of, how did you get him here? And it was like, I just asked him.
Email. Facebook.
I just asked. And there was like this look of...
Well, you paid him as well, didn't you?
Well, yeah, of course. But
which that's how you should. Yeah. You come for nothing, but you might have got a response.
The look of bewilderment on this person's face was just like... And I was like, why have you even got that? I don't know, like, why would you even ask that? Like, of course, you would just... If you want something, you just ask.
Maybe you need, maybe you thought you need to fill a form in.
Maybe.
Get clearance on the subcommittee on the subcommittee.
I'd like to think any of the instructors that come to teach us, we always, we're always a good host, and we always
why we know? I mean, I find myself teaching all over the place nowadays, and generally it's just great fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like, I suppose...
I bet you like meeting new people, though, and
I like
hearing their story.
Yeah. But also, I like the challenge, when I went to America a few years ago, and I taught in 6 states, I think, and I taught something like 18 classes in 20 days, and it was exhausting. But it was so exciting. And I felt as though I'd arrived, to be honest, for me personally, because I was like this English guy. And, the rule is when you teach, you've got to be like the best guy in the room at what you do. Yeah. At what you do, not the best guy in the room.
No.
But the best guy at what you do. And my rule of teaching is always be able to do something that no one else can do. Like, have signatures, tricks. And it's a bit like being a comedian. You've got to have that. And I found that really hard, but at the end, really deeply satisfying. I thought, I can do this.
Well, I mean, I wish like yourself and HDKI, like all the best going forward. I mean, I think with Stuart on board, like there's a good catalyst there to really.
Yeah, I mean, young blood. But again, Stuart's great, but we've got other people coming in, especially women. We've got a really strong, Natalie Botcher and Amelia, who are all young, strong. Arguably, we've got some.
I'd like to train with Natalie. I've seen her about a machine, and I know she trains. She does a few bits with Sensei Bob as well.
Yeah, she does everyone.
I'd like to.
No, she's banned.
I'd like to train with her.
I highly recommend.
But again, it's people like that. Like I've heard the name, I've seen it on these things, and it's again like this podcast. Like you want to bring these people forward, or you want them to step forward, because the amount of people I spoke to and said, look, I think you've got like an interesting story. I'd just like to hear your story. And the amount.
Well, she's doing my summer. She's here for summer camp. She was in the Slovenian national team. She comes from Slovenia, I think Slovenia or Slovakia, one of those places. And she came over here with a pedigree. So she's one of those great people that you meet. But
the amount of people that when you ask them and they'll go, "Oh, I don't think I've got anything interesting to say."
Well, Julie probably say
and you're like. Look, well, how long have you been doing karate? 30, 40 years or 30, and then you're like, then you've got a story.
Yeah.
But it's some people I feel like have just been like, they're just programmed to like, And
I think it's character. I mean, there's a couple of karate books out there. I mean, I love karate books. Someone seems to have a great story, and then they don't tell it very well, or they're too modest.
Well.
You need a certain amount. I mean, I'm a showman. You need a certain amount of showmanship to do it. So if you're shy, these things. I mean, some people would be terrified to do this, would they?
Yeah. Well, what does the future hold for Sensei Simon?
I don't know. I live in the now.
Oh, good. I'm a Zen Buddhist.
I live in the eternal now. Yeah. No, seriously, I don't. I literally, I'm 65 in May, and I just think I try and make the most of everything these days. Yeah. My dear friend Matthew, God bless him, died. He was 64. He died last year, and really quite quick. I mean, I'll tell you the story. He thought he had piles, a bit of a joke, a bit of piles, and then it turned prostate cancer, and he was dead within a year. Wow. So, I mean, I don't be morbid, but it's worth remembering.
Well,
so
no,
it also puts everything into perspective as well.
Yeah.
So I don't really worry about HDKI, what's going to happen. I worry what's going to happen to my friends. But so I want to just have Kenya. I want to go to Kenya in August and have a karate adventure. I want to go to Japan with my students and friends in 2026, September 2026. And there's a competition, the HDKI World Cup. Yeah. I want to see George, my student in the England team, fighting in that. And I want to sit in, maybe in that, I want to sit with Scott Sensei, looking at Mount Fuji, thinking, where did it all go wrong? Is that all right? It's not a bad end, is it?
No.
And then I want world domination.
World domination.
Don't we all?
Yes. And I definitely want to pass the baton on.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the Joe Biden of the karate world.
God.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know.
More like the Donald Trump of the karate world here. Shaking it up.
But you know, I think
we digress.
Yeah.
I think that's a natural. Well, listeners, if you've made it this far, well done. Get a life. I just want to say, I've just said, it's just, if you're ever in Newark, come to Millgate, and you'll find a little shed. And you go in it, though, and it's like a proper Japanese dojo. It's got a little kami shrine. It's got nameplates. It's got a dojo board. I'll put some pictures on of it sometime. You want an authentic Japanese karate in Newark and the castle. I brought Rick Cotton here one time. Rick Cotton is a friend of mine. I said, there's the castle. He goes, there's a castle. He's not camp at all, but for one moment, he's, oh my God. And he's touching the walls. How old are these walls? I'm going, 10,000 years old.
Well, we always have a few quick questions.
I like a quickie with Andy.
Easy.
Come on, then. Easy. Right, don't ask any sums.
There's no maths in this.
Good.
Okay. Are we ready?
Yep.
Favourite kata?
You see, they're the old boy. I've done karate so long, I've forgotten all of them. Yeah. Favourite kata? Yeah.
Or from any style, because you've done quite a lot.
But I don't know. Basai-dai.
Basai-dai.
But I'll tell you why, because I like this story. Kagawa Sensei did Basai-dai for his 8th dan. Right. Now, I don't think you should do kata for 8th dan, really. I think it's daft. But I love the fact that he chose the kata he did for Shodan for his 8th dan. I think that's really interesting. So...
But don't feel that you have to justify.
Sorry. Bit of fun at the end. Go on.
No, go on. If you got
no. I'm going to give you a really quick answer to the next one.
Favourite kata for bunkai?
17. No. Just Nijishiho.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favourite technique to use in kumite?
Kicking people in the head.
I thought you might say
that.
But
What I need is just desert island discs. I'd say kicking people in the head, but can my luxury item be a time machine so we can go back 20 years and I can properly kick you in the head? Kicking techniques.
Best male competitor
that you've ever seen?
Just from personal experience, Elwin Hall. So maybe one of the highlights of my sort of was being Elwin liking me for a little bit at Marshall Street and partnering, because it was like, one of those, it's so bad, it's good. And just watching him compete was just electric, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic. Yeah. And he's a nice guy. I mean, I really, I'm honoured that I was matey with him.
Okay.
That was a long answer. Yeah.
Best female competitor?
Julie Nicholson.
I thought you might say that.
Yeah. Well, I'm only saying because it's true. And to add that, there's a great picture in Fighting Art. So I used to watch her at Crystal Palace back in the day as well. Where she won the kumite, and the kata, I think. But also she's on the podium there with a black eye, and she's the smallest. She epitomised that Steve Cattle thing of being a small person, being able to beat big people in an open weight division by tactics and skill, which I really admire.
Yeah. 5-person kumite now, past, present, anybody who you want.
If you could pick five people to have a 5-person kumite team, who would it be?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right. In karate competitions.
Yeah.
Chuck Norris. Gotta have Chuck Norris, hasn't he?
Chuck
Norris, Jackie
Norris.
Chan, Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Terry O'Neill, just for the fun, and Elwyn Hall.
Elwyn Hall.
And Julie
What a
Nicholson.
team.
Julie Nicholson as well. She's sub. No, Chuck Norris is sub because he's a bit old.
Okay, so what about a 3-person kata team?
Oh, God.
Oh, I know, ruined it now, haven't I?
Yeah, I think I'd go for like one that would be excellent but completely chaotic. So it'd be Julie Nicholson captain doing it properly, Yahara flying around doing it bonkers, and Nimoto, the Japanese JKS girl, who's absolutely brilliant. And I'll put Yahara in just to mess it up. No, one of my favourite kata people is, I think his name's, is it Nimoto? Or Watanabe, maybe? I can't remember.
It's Watanabe.
Watanabe. Because I saw them in the JKS World Championships in Scotland many years ago, and they were like that big. And they were just super, super brilliant. Yeah,
excellent.
I think I prefer women's kata to male kata nowadays, just because I think it's more technical and they take the power out and they use good technique and timing. That's
greatest karate achievement.
Still doing it.
Still doing it. That's pretty good.
Yeah. I'll still doing a version of it. Doing like a rickety, dickery, doddery old man karate.
The instructor who's had the most lasting effect on you. Ooh.
One.
Yeah.
Go on.
You've got to just have one.
One, yeah.
Leo Ariti, my first instructor.
There you
go. And everyone knows who the other ones are.
Yeah. Your best karate moment.
Whoa, okay. This is very hard. After 50 years. I think there was possibly training at the Shotokan that day, because I went to I stood at the steps of the old Abyss Dojo, and then we trained at the Shotokan, and somebody tried to stop us training there, and we trained there, and that felt like an achievement. But I'm going to say just having training at the Mecca Karate, no matter how short or longer time I did it, training at the JK Abyss Dojo, that was that's my top trumps card, in fact, really. Yeah. I think,
That pretty much wraps us up.
There you go. Thanks. I don't like those daft questions. Right, I'll stop talking now.
Thank you for coming on, Simon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.